All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Fiziev versus Torres. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend. He is the Ohio player. If you mess with him, he will yank your ponytail. Mr. Chase Parton, how are you, brother?
I am okay. As an ex-ponytailer, I can verify that this is true. I know how to get down and dirty, of
You've
course.
been on both sides of the ponytail.
Absolutely, exactly. But today I woke up on the right side of the ponytail, so this was a
True.
good one. I love today. Obviously, we had fights on Saturday. It is now Monday, and I'm very excited to talk about these things, of course.
Absolutely, as am I. And yes, we have fights to talk about, but we do not have fights this week coming up in the UFC. Of course, we have an off week, so no predictions for this episode. However, this is just a delay for the greatness to come because, as you know, around here, when we do not have fights during this week, next week will be an entire episode dedicated to our predictions. It'll be a more in-depth breakdown, have all the information for you, the stats. We will go over them in a lot more detail and give you that breakdown on the following episode. So all we got for you tonight is UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Torres, but trust we will make this one great. Before we get into that, though, Chase, other things from the fight world this week. What did we get? What did we get into?
First off, we watched one
Yes.
in the morning on Friday. If you guys did not know, this is the place to be. Friday mornings watching one because we had some really good fights. They had the inner circle before it, and from what I saw, a couple decisions. There was obviously the stamp situation. I don't know if anybody watched that one. I obviously am not in. I'm not in the inner circle. I'm not in the club, so I did not get to see it. I heard it was not necessarily the cleanest victory. Somebody skated by judge's decision, but that's if you want to run into that a little more, you can. But I
I
don't
mean,
think it's
honestly,
necessarily the
yeah, I
story of the
really,
day.
sure. Yeah, I really don't have too much more beyond just that information myself. I too am not in the inner circle. Plus, what I've said about the inner circle that really bothers me is you've got all of the best fighters from one championship, not only behind a paywall, that in and of itself is annoying, but also at freaking what the ass crack of dawn on a Friday
Yeah.
morning when the United States is, working. I mean, like, what I said on my on my stream, and I will talk about the event that I was talking about this on, but what I had said is like, me, I mean, I go out of my way to support the organizations when and if I can. Especially I'm doing watch alongs. I always try to buy the pay-per-views. I mean, I want to give back to the organizations that put these fights on because I want more fights. I would watch these fights. I would be there for these. I would pay for these pay-per-views. But I'm a man with a job. I'm like every other American for the most part. A lot like a majority of Americans. Monday through Friday. A lot of them cannot tune into this. So I really do not understand this model that they have for the inner circle. I really question if this is working out for one the way that they hope it's going to be.
Yeah, we do not know necessarily what the talks are about that. We've seen, questions about where their books are lying earlier in the year, and late
True.
late last year. So this was maybe their idea of, spicing it up, trying to get a new stream of revenue going. If they're not making it here, I mean, we got to start charging something. We can't have all these free fights in every country.
Very true. Yeah, indeed. Well, unfortunate that that's the case when it comes to one championship. Also Muay Thai related. However, I
Well,
did want. Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
moving on from Muay Thai. Or
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, not moving on from one. I'm sorry. Let's hold
Yes,
on. So the inner circle with Stamp, that was necessarily the main story of that situation. I can't remember how
right.
the main event panned out. It might have
It
even been
was
another
that
dozen.
stamp won, and it was a robbery in her favor, basically.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
But either way, so the fights after the actual Friday fights that get aired in the US, I want you guys to hear this. They're good. They're getting better. Like at the beginning of the year, you thought you were missing out. Well, there wasn't the inner circle at the beginning of the year, but a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, you started to realize that, oh, there's fights before what I'm seeing. And you would have thought these are the better fights. Guys, the people who are competing on Fridays, Friday mornings after the inner circle, they are like they're locked in. They've seen how great people compete, and it's like they want to emulate that. They have like that. I obviously can't say that's what they're doing, but they're competing. They're out there doing a lot better than what I expected. When at the beginning of the year, again, we were getting a lot of decisions, a lot of fights, not necessarily panning out. You get somebody who's 106 and two, Pajita, she just smokes her opponent, and then she goes into a main event spot. Whatever you want to say, it, it wasn't looking hot. But now the Friday fights, I'm happy to say that after the Inner Circle, they're panning out. It was a really good one.
Yeah, I remember you were saying that there were a lot of finishes this previous card.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there have been a lot of decent finishes in the past couple weeks. I haven't really it's been kind of slipping under the radar, because you kind of watch and you're like, all right, now that should be expected. That's the what we should see as the norm. But then as weeks pan out, you're like, God damn, have we had decision like a lot in a couple weeks? Like people really are just not just finishing each other, but like they're going to the point where it's like, okay, they've both given 100%. Like I can't really say that nobody's not trying to finish each other here. So it was pretty good. I like it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, then keeping along those same lines, then what I wanted to talk about was, on my channel we do Muay Thai Sundays. So
Mhm.
Chase on Friday mornings, myself on Sunday evenings. Muay Thai Sundays this last Sunday was a rewatch of the epic RWS 200. And when I tell you that this was one of the best Muay Thai cards I have ever seen, I really truly mean it. It was just a fantastic card from front to back. It's only 7 fights on an
Mhm.
RWS card, but what you get out of those 7 fights, I mean, really just high quality. This one had 3 title fights on it because it was such a big event, and the prelim fights were really good as well. Albert Campos, he was fighting, I believe, Oscar Fonseca. That fight was the first fight of the evening. Was very good. You had, the big story of it, and the big story of RWS in general right now has to be the one and only, aka the chosen one, they call him, Daniel Rodriguez. Of course, not the D-Rod that you know from the UFC that went to Mexican prison. This is a different Daniel Rodriguez. This is the Muay Thai one. And when I tell you that this is possibly one of the greats of Muay Thai in the modern era, I really and truly mean this. I mean, this guy is just, he's a surgical precision fighter who puts on amazing technical performances. And if you were there for the watch along, we were breaking down how this guy set up. I mean, I had spoiler alert. If you if you don't want the spoiler, then mute it right now. But just for your knowledge of this, he did end up getting a finish, which is almost a foregone conclusion when he fights. But it's not about the finish as much as it is about watching him set up everything that goes into him getting the finish. And when you break it down piece by piece, it is really an amazing thing to behold watching this guy fight. And he does it so consistently. The guy is, I believe now 51-0-1. So he is an undefeated except for the one draw fighter. And I mean, this dude is just, it's an incredible thing to watch this guy fight. The RWS 200 event was fantastic. So I really just had to throw that in here now, is just to say, if you did not see RWS 200, it is free on YouTube to watch. Please do yourself a favor and watch this event. It was fantastic.
So, and just because I'm not as up to date, so this was a rewatch for when was 200? Was it last week or?
Yeah, it was. The reason that we did not watch it live was because it aired at the same time as the UFC card. The one time that the UFC had an early start time with the card that we're going to be talking about, that was when RWS took place. So, I would have liked to have watched it live, but they do air live on YouTube for free as well. So you can watch it live, in the early time, or you can watch it on the rewatch.
Oh, absolutely. No, that dude, he sounds pretty good. What I will say is, I got a lot of guys in one championship that are pretty good too, and they're pretty tough. Not even guys that are undefeated. I'm not even talking about bringing like Adrian Lee or or somebody. I don't even know another one, or Shimon. I'm not even talking about people like this.
True.
There are guys out there who got plenty of losses. That my guy who's 50-0-1, whoever got that draw, first off, we need to run it back.
True.
And second, I got a guy who's 70-22 who'll probably give him a good
Well,
matchup. Let me
and
just say that.
this is what we've all been talking about on those streams is, how long can RWS hold on to this guy, because he's a superstar in their promotion, but eventually he's going to bust it. He is the longest reigning RWS champion of all time. He's had the belt for over 1400 days.
I think this is a perfect segue to what I want to talk about next. But when you were talking about him, the impression that I was getting, I was thinking to myself, like, God, he's really like the Decheva of this promotion over here. Like, gosh, if He's just undefeated. He's doing all this work. Like, man, just let him free. Let him come on over to some other promotions. I'm ready to see him, you know?
Well, but see the difference though. I mean, sure. I mean, you do make a point. Like, you're only going to get the talent pool that is in RWS. But the difference I would say between him and Tcheva is that he is running through all of the competition in RWS. So it's not like they're with when we were talking about Tcheva recently fighting this what like 9-5 fighter or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous. But like this guy, it's like he is all comers. Like anybody can get it in RWS. He's a multi division champion as well, kind of thing. Multi weight class. So it's like this dude is going above and beyond to just clear out a whole promotion of people.
See, and that's what I'm talking about, man. But no, going into the next thing, obviously Tcheva, you're talking about how she's facing somebody who's 9-5. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, Canadian women are still on top. Did you guys know PFL had an event? And guess what? It was I watched one specific thing, but we'll talk about Liz in just 1 second. But the main thing, Canadian women on top, because guys, Shannon Clark had a performance. She had a performance, guys. She not only scheduled a bout after having one of the most embarrassing, and I hate to be it was embarrassing. I mean, it was brutal, it was embarrassing, it was one of the largest upsets in Contender Series history. She came back and had a fight. I actually think she came back and had another one a while ago, but I think she came back here and had a great performance. Unfortunately, if I want to be truthful, guys, she's in the PFL, and from what I saw, there's a reason that she did not get into the UFC.
Yeah.
Let me give her justice. She
Yeah.
is very skilled. She is very, very skilled. I know you don't agree with the comparison, being very skilled, and I'm going to compare her to somebody. I think she's very much like a Jalissa Chavs that we just saw kind of deal. She's very skilled all around. She has all these good techniques for being so green. She'll throw knees, she'll throw elbows, she'll get taken down for a whole round or whatever happened in that first round. But either way, she had a good performance, came back at the third round TKO. However, she was getting hit with a lot of shots and she was not blocking her face at all. And it's like, girl,
Well,
help me, help you. Like,
I mean, this is the girl who got knocked out by Yanisi Dubin on the Contender Series, is who we're talking about, right?
correct. You
Correct.
are
Okay.
absolutely correct.
Yeah, well, and so I mean, I appreciate this level of interest not only in women's MMA but Canadian women's MMA. So good deal there. But I was curious as to why you were very specifically interested in her and this fight. Like, I mean, this was because you made it known to everybody that you were watching this fight. It's like, guys, yo, Shannon Clark, everybody, come on, you got hold the presses here.
This is a big thing that I'm going to bring up later.
Ah,
Listen, the story isn't over for a lot of fighters.
true.
If somebody listen, she got to the biggest stage of her life. She's ready to go into the UFC. If you watch that promo, she just had a kid a couple years ago. She's getting back into it. I'm just training. I'm just out here having a good time. And then for that to be the outcome of what happened to her, her to coming back, man. She is a tough person. Again, not a lot of women will go out there and get beat the hell up. That's one thing, but getting just starched, completely just like lifelined. That's a different type of mentality to think that you are confident enough that you can still get this done. So I really believe in her. Obviously what I saw is not the greatest, but she's 8-1 now or whatever. Like, guys, this is still a very young prospect. I truly think she's going to get a second trip on the Contender Series. Canadian women will get opportunities here. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
and look, I mean, if she's of a caliber that can win in PFL, stay winning in PFL for a while. I mean, you say, obviously she took a lot of shots. I mean, maybe she's going to have some competitive fights in PFL. So it's like, get better in PFL, and if the time is right, then yeah, the Contender Series will be there.
I I this is what's good about the sport, and this is listen, when it comes to the Contender Series specifically, and to that note of her getting another opportunity, Dana White specifically said, he likes the stories. This isn't your average story. You don't just get knocked out like that. You got something to prove when you come. Like, I cannot be the person who that's the image of me. I quit the sport. I just never be seen again. Like, no, there's got to be something better for me, and
True.
you got to believe in people who are confident like that. She believes in herself, so I'm going to go ahead and believe in her. As somebody who doesn't have the most self-confidence, there you go. Shout out her.
Nice. Doing it. Yeah, exactly. Doing it big for, self-belief. I can
There you
appreciate
go.
that. Being a good role model in that regard. I like it. Well, speaking of stories continuing, Chase, this is one that I wanted to mention as well. So, this was brought to my attention by a good friend of mine who is in the chat right now, Bleeding Edge MMA. He put me on to an event in Florence, Italy. It is called the Calcio Storico. Chase, have you heard of this before?
I have not heard of it, but I did tune in, and for the one time, and I'm not saying that this is like, because this is just how I personally am a stream watcher. I don't normally have the event on. I'm like, I
Mhm.
like the banter with Thinker. I like to, I turned on the Storico, and I had to see what this was. I mean, I was told this was not to miss. Armored MMA is something different. I've seen clips of it, but like
Sure.
this, I'm being told this is of the ages. This is the first sport of man. This is what I've
Well,
been told.
again, yeah, the beginning of the story. The story continues from like the dawn of time when it comes to Italy. Apparently, this is something that's gone back for many, many years in Italy, in Florence specifically. But what I would say is that this pushes the limits of combat. As far as the definitions go, as when it comes to covering it on my channel. When combat sports adjacent, this does kind of test the limits of that. But they are fighting in it. And when I tell you people, if you have never seen the Calcio Storico, when I say that there is nothing like this, I truly mean this. I mean, like, the best that you can say is that it is a mixture of rugby, fighting, and soccer, I guess, to an extent. The three of those kind of mishmashed up. But that does not do justice to what you actually witness when you were watching this thing. It's wholly unique, I would say.
I think I just want to run down a list of things in no particular order, and I'm not going to categorize them whether I like them or dislike them. That is up for your interpretation here.
Please do
Um,
so.
so this is a sport. Yes, there
Hmm.
is a ball.
Yep.
They don't necessarily. They have random times that they pick which side they're going to throw to. Both teams will score on the same side. There is fighting, but most of that is laying on top of each other and trying to swipe at somebody running by. There's a bald man with his jacket open. He walks around with two drinks in his hand. I have no idea what that dude was about.
The hydration specialist.
That guy was here, so that was another thing that was awesome. They had a little tent, which when they explained the rules, you would throw the ball. They're like, you got to get the ball through the slit. None of them through the slit. They just threw it right over to the corner. And I'm like, I thought
Yeah.
the game was I don't know. There was a lot of things going on here. The fighting itself was more or less, I see the guy I don't like, and we're actually going to fight. If I don't really care for him, I'm just going to tackle him. I'm going to lay on top of him.
Well,
And
that's the idea, is to get him down. It's basically, it's like you fight for a little bit, but really what you're trying to do is just get somebody to the ground, because once you're on the ground, then you're out until the point's scored. The whole rule system really is almost secondary to the action. All I say is turn it on and watch it. You'll figure it out as you go. But once you do get into it and start paying attention to all of the things that you just mentioned, Chase, all of those details, your brain kind of is in like a million different places. You're looking, it's like your eyes are darting all over the screen, like trying to figure out what the hell you're watching. But over the course of it, you'll get it. And by the time the thing is like halfway through, you are so invested, especially if it's a good game like the one that we watched. So we watched the finals of 2026's season. It's like a tournament style thing. So I have 2 rounds, I think. And we watched the finals of it, and the game was very close, very competitive. So you kind of turn your brain off to the actual nuts and bolts of it and just enjoy all of the chaos. And it is a sight to behold.
I think the last thing that I'll mention and why this also becomes, discombobulated, at least for the portion that I was watching, I went to sleep. Obviously, I wasn't going to watch the Storico all night, guys. I have work in the morning. The Storico is something that you have to behold the entirety of. You can't just get a portion. You got to sit down and enjoy the entire thing to really behold what this is. And when you also mix in the fact that there's so many colors going on, there's reds, there's blues, and there's greens. And now that I think about it, when I say it, it's like, why weren't they the colors of Italy? Like, why was blue there? Like, I don't. Isn't
Because I think that they are regions of the city. I think is how that breaks
okay?
down. So they just I think they just assigned them based on that. Again,
Oh,
there are things about it that I still don't fully know.
the last thing you're
Yes.
talking about assigned. Yes, yes. Everything is assigned in this sport. Assigned at birth. You get your team at birth, and that is your team for life. That's how the Storico works, guys. So
Well, I mean, I think that that's almost one of the most important points, is that really the Storico is mostly about pride and about like,
Yes.
repping for your hood basically, because it's like, you're going up against other regions of the same area for essentially bragging rights,
Yeah.
for domination for the year. And it's you and a team of people also from your city. You have to be from that city or a naturalized citizens with 10 years of lived experience in that place. So it's like, this is very much just about pride, and there's really not much more to it. There's no big, I mean, there's like a fireworks thing at the end or whatever for the winner, but like as far as like, wide scale, worldwide recognition, fame, glory, money, etc., really all of that goes out the window. It's not about that. It's more at the roots level.
The last thing that I'll ask about the Storico, to give it its grand justice, Thinker, is this going to be an annual watch along?
Oh God, I hope so. Absolutely. I would love for it to be. In fact, if we can catch it live, I'll have to see when they air it live. The only problem with it, and I'm going to need to lean on the Blood Palm community, on the Yama community here to keep me honest about this, because the only problem with it is that since it's not a combat sport in the traditional sense, I'm going to have to do double effort to make sure I am on top of when it happens. So, if you guys were out there and you were watching, please keep me honest about this. Let me know ahead of time when it's happening. We'll plan it and we will watch it.
The last question that I have, and this is obviously more of just an observation, the Coliseum is like close by or not? Like, why didn't they like build something that's kind of similar? Am I
Because
like,
you just play it on a big patch of dirt. That's why it's not a Coliseum sport. I mean, the actual answer, of course, is because the Coliseum is reserved for Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. But
fa-
you know,
facts? Goddamn.
but yeah, no, but that's another part of the craziness of it, is that it literally there's no markings on the field, if you can even call it a field. It is literally just a big pitch of dirt, 8 inches of dirt on top of cobblestone. This is about as near to the ground as you can get. It's, again, nothing like it. There's nothing
Yeah,
like it.
that's absolutely awesome. No, I'm glad you were able to get a glimpse of history. I mean, this is mankind itself. When they talk about the first things that happened, Mictebek was born, and then the Storico happened. I mean, it's just how it goes. So
Exactly. And then you just have that big long line of history, and then
exactly,
now we're here.
it's like White House, Freedom 250, and then all that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So those were the things I wanted to mention. Was there anything else that you wanted to get into before we start talking other stuff?
I think the last thing that we need to do before we start talking other stuff, and by other stuff you mean UFC, and by the
Sure.
great stuff, I'm talking about the chat. So we got to go ahead and give a shout out to the
Of
chat real quick.
course.
Obviously, Bleeding Edge got his little moment a second ago, but we're gonna go ahead and shout out. I saw Sam earlier, right, and Carlos and Bleeding Edge and Bleeding Edge, Bleeding Edge and Bleeding Edge. Jeez, well, G's doing great today. Appreciate him.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Yeah, shout out to Sam and to Carlos. Appreciate you guys as well. And of course, Bleeding Edge is the man. So thank you very much for bringing the Calcio Storico to my attention, brother.
And thank you for bringing the attention to me that we could get a matchup like Carnelosi and Shannon Clark, but it's not possible because Carnelosi got cut, so that's unfortunate. But
Well,
Shannon
Carnelosi
Clark,
can go over to PFL now.
God damn it, you guys are really doing it. You've done it. I didn't even think of it. Holy shoot!
How
Oh my
about it?
goodness!
Yeah,
How about that?
matchmaking happening on the fly. There you go. And if the new guy over there, PFL, is about it like he needs to be, which it seems like he's way more so than Don Davis, then that might actually happen. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that all being said, of course, we've talked about the fact that we do not have predictions this week, but what we do have is UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Torres. Of course, this took place at the National Gymnastics Arena in Baku, Azerbaijan. Chase, coming into this card, this early card that we had to wake up early on a Saturday morning for, what were your thoughts?
Listen, I always love getting up early for the fights. I have no problem doing it because, listen, I sleep, get up, watch the fights, and it's a great sequence, and we obviously had some good fights to look forward to. There wasn't anything in particular that I think I was like, man, this is going to be like the crazy, but it was a good slate of cards, and I'm really excited every time we get to go around to this region of the world because we get to see, certain people pop out of their homes, whatever you want to say.
Sure, yeah, kind of crawl their way from out of the woodwork, I suppose. Um,
Correct.
yeah, I think that what I would say about this card is that I was very excited for certain fights on this card. This card turned out to be pretty okay in the big picture, with some standout moments that maybe were a little bit less than, and we'll talk about all of them. But like, what I said about it is I think that like some of the fights I thought were going to be a little bit more than what they ended up being, even though a lot of them ended in finishes. So we'll talk about the details of all of it. I wouldn't say that I was like let down by this card. I would think I was let down by certain fights on this card, you know?
Um, what I will say, just as a brief overview, there was fights that I wasn't let down. I let myself down on some of these fights because I gave people more hope than they should have ever been given.
I
So
think I'm in the same kind of boat with that on some of that as well. So we'll get all into all of who those were and what they were all about, and we will do that right now. Starting off with the first fight of the evening, of course, with these two people that we did not know about necessarily, the newcomers to this UFC. This is Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. Now, what I think that we did not mention, but I had found out over time. I think I found out on Twitter after the fight had concluded. Both of these guys, of course, new to the UFC, we knew that, but both of them end on short notice as well. I don't know if you knew that, Chase.
yes, we did kind
Oh,
of
did we
some.
talk about that part?
I remember I remember I don't think I mentioned it. I remember thinking, or I saw the slate and I made the sheets, and then when we came onto the show I was like, oh, there's one more. It's like they just kind of threw it in there.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah. So, so both of these guys in on short notice. And apparently, also, the other thing, too, I mean, I'd have to double check to make sure that this is actually true. But I think what I had seen was both of these guys fighting up a weight. So,
I'm
I
not
don't.
positive about Abdullayev, but that is the story for Nascimento.
So yeah, so okay, so at least one. So either way, a couple of unique situations for this fight and for these fighters specifically. That being said, this fight was fucking bizarre in a lot of ways. There was a couple of things that were a little bit strange about this fight. What I ended up taking away from this fight was that Jefferson Nascimento, I did not particularly care for how he was going about all of the fighting, of course. Now, I understand, because people would say Nascimento was running. I mean, I did not, that was not what bothered me a little bit. What bothered me was the fact that he was the one that was getting the better of the exchanges when they did engage with each other. I thought that he had some pretty good, powerful shots. I didn't understand why he was playing the outside quite as much as he was. That bothered me. What really bothered me, though, is this guy, Tahir Abdullayev. I really instantly do not like this guy after this fight. So that's all I want to set it up with. Chase, go ahead.
We will talk about Tahir, of course. We will go into a lot of different things about this fight,
Yeah, there's a lot.
but to start,
Mhm.
Jefferson Nascimento, the story is not over. This is not over. This guy has it. He does has it. He has it, guys. Listen, he is not the best, obviously. I mean, he could have went in there and starched him in 12 seconds if he was. He came in here with a game plan, right? And the referee was actively trying to make him lose. And we
That
will
is
talk,
a big, yeah.
but we will talk about this. But the part about his game plan,
Mhm.
he had a game plan. Play the outside. If he comes in close, I'm gonna stick him. 100%. He lived up to it. He
Yeah.
did everything perfect. He got the better shots. He actually landed powerful shots. The dude was like he was making Tahir so frustrated by the way that he was fighting. And Tahir, obviously, you make the point all the time, go get him, go cut the
Yes.
cage off. It is up to you to go make, and this is obviously, and this is where I don't want to make it the entirety of the fight, but this is exactly how far it goes. Like, this is how short the leash was that the ref had to intervene. So all Nascimento was doing, circling the cage and actually striking when he got close. Okay, referee. Okay, the referee, starts to fucking do his thing because Tahir starts emoting like, "Come on, let's go." And then, so the ref's like, "Come on, guys, let's, come on." Nascimento continues doing his thing. Okay, Tahir does the thing. He walks away. He's like, "Come, this guy's not fucking, whatever." So then we get up against the cage. This is the first part where the ref fucking started doing his weird shit. I don't know if you caught this one. Hopefully, it's in the notes. We get Tahir, holding Nascimento against the cage, and he starts yapping, "Yay, blah, blah, blah," and he's like, glove, glove. And like, okay, so he goes in, He breaks, and it's like, what are we fucking breaking for? It's like, okay, if there's a glove, figure it out. You're the ref. What are you breaking for? They go to the monitor. They show a nut shot. It's like, okay, we got a nut shot. Okay, fair. I see it. But then we go right back to action. I'm like, hold on, what was there a break, or what was he?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I thought that Tahir had like acknowledged the nut shot. It was multiple things happening at once. Like you said, he was complaining about the glove grab, but then also got fouled to the nuts. I thought that he had like waved off the nut foul, and then the glove grab just kind of like fell by the wayside. It was a poor handling of two things happening simultaneously, I guess I should say.
so anyway, I think this is. I'm trying to think of where all the cheating happened, because we had so much. The ref was definitely in on it, and Tahir doing his own thing. You obviously have to remember there was a back of the head shot that happened too. There was an
Definitely
elbow to the
that.
back of the head. There was the questionable bite. We don't know if that was confirmed or not. But if you listen, bro yelped and held his ear. I don't know what to tell you. There's a scene of Floyd. There's a video, an older video of Floyd Mayweather when he gets like bit or something in the cage, and like he like yelps like a fucking dog, and it's a video. Like people meme him all the time for it. It's like, bro, people don't normally yelp. Like, especially if you were a pro fighter, Marab getting kicked in the stomach, and you could visibly hear him yelp. It's like, okay, fair. You getting his ass fucking
Floyd
whipped.
got bit in a boxing match.
Yeah, there was like
Oh,
a clip. Yeah, it was a
yeah,
clip of that.
okay.
Anyway, but the point is, grown men who are professional athletes who are 13-0, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's the type of dude to pull this. Like, ow, he bit me, because he yelps, holds his ear, and then he says something, and then credit to a lot of people who are making the point. Bro speaks Portuguese. This ref obviously don't even give a shit. Like, how is he even going to get the point across quickly enough? Like, bro, he bit. I got to fight on, or he's going to kill me, because he literally, mounts up and starts elbowing him after he does this. So there's another point. And then so the ref starts the third round by telling Nascimento, come on, dude, you got to fucking fight. It's like,
Well, only after the late hit at the end of round two as well. I mean, again, this guy Tahir is not only like fouling, he's complaining the entire fight about inactivity when he is also inactive. He's fouling multiple times. The referee is directing his attention to Nascimento. It's like the whole dynamic. Again, it was not only unfair, but it was very bizarre. Just the whole dynamic of everything.
and then the last part that made me so mad, and this is where I really respected Nascimento. The ref comes up to him at the beginning of the round after everything that's happened. Bro, he bit me. He elbowed me in the back of the head. He hit me after the bell. What all this shit. I have nothing. The ref's coming up to him. He's like, "You're gonna have to fight, dude. You're gonna have to be active." Nascimento's just like, "Yeah, yeah, yep, I hear you. Yeah, I'm gonna do exactly what I've been doing. I got one more round of this. You can say whatever the fuck you want to me right now, bro. You've literally done nothing for
Yeah,
me. Like,
why would I play any game with you? I already know how you feel about things. Yeah.
exactly. So we obviously get a third round, and then it's going the same way. Nascimento actually came in with a little more fire. After there was a point, I think it was after the late hit, he came into the round, with a little more heat, and he was coming in here to end some stuff. And Tahir was clearly gassed. This was from the second round. It was perfect from Nascimento to play this game plan on the outside, because Tahir, if he would have had to abide by the rules like anybody else, hey, fight, go after your opponent. Brother, he wasn't going to be able to. That's why he keeps emoting away like he's not fucking fighting me. It's because you can't fucking do it. So the third round comes. We obviously get a slugfest, and then it comes down to, Nascimento ends up on bottom. Tahir's landing shots that aren't necessarily the craziest, and then the ref steps in. And what I will say to this, in the moment, I didn't think it was the worst stoppage, but
It was not great.
I will listen to everybody. In the moment, I haven't done my rewatches of it. I don't necessarily think too much of it. This dude's a dirty, dirty cheat. The victory doesn't mean anything. But in the moment, I was like, I think he kind of went out a little bit. It wouldn't have been horrible, but the ref already had his moments where he was trying to do his shit. So, in my opinion, I'm with the idea that it was early. He was wanting to stop that fight.
Well,
Like, it wasn't necessarily anything Nascimento did or didn't do.
yeah, and I mean, if he had gone momentarily, like, if it was like a flash knockdown into
Mm.
the sequence thereafter, he was back to it trying, because, like, I mean, Felder made the point. He was like turning his body away when the stoppage happened. So I mean, he's trying to defend. I mean, he's trying to get to the next position. There's another stop on this card that's a little bit of a better illustration of how that probably would have went if he was going to be dead to rights done. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But
Yeah.
the stoppage was not great, but the stoppage was just a culmination of a whole bunch of other bullshit in this fight. Jim Perdios handled this fight very poorly, the referee.
He reffed again, brother. He reffed
Oh,
multiple
multiple
times
times.
on
Yeah.
this. Oh my god. Dana's made the call before. I know he wasn't necessarily there. I guess Hunter doesn't have the pull. Brother, I said this during the fight. It was after the back of the head elbow where he just literally looked at it and he's just like, "Mm." I said this dude's dangerous, bro. Like this dude literally could get somebody fucking killed.
Well,
Like
bro, I
that's just
mean, like,
crazy.
we've talked. You want to talk about people with back of the head stuff? I mean, we literally, Herb Dean was on the White House card and got flamed into oblivion, and then was reffing the next week, and a similar situation happened. We talked about both of those, so it's like, yeah, I mean, of course he didn't get taken off of the card. Why would he at this point? There's no law anymore, Chase.
But it's not just the fouls that he didn't care about. That's not the part that's not the part that's dangerous. He is at will to the fighter. Like he literally does his job predicates what this dude does. Oh, he don't want to fight. Why aren't you fighting him? Oh, you're gonna
That
hit him in the back
yes,
of the head. Why aren't you covering up? Oh, you're gonna finish it. Why aren't you doing more? It's like everything Nascimento, bro. The cards were stacked against this dude. 13-0. I'm telling you, this is my point of view, and I hate to be this way. If you are Nascimento, if you are listening out there, if you have something to hear this. You should have the uber confidence that they had to have everything against you. But you are an undefeated Brazilian guy coming into their land. Fair. They had to make everything. It's not just cheating, bro. It's the ref. The judging was probably going to be. We already saw the scorecards. It was literally with the knockdown in the third, he was going to win. So whatever you want to say, Nascimento, they had to do anything to stop you from winning. They had to do everything. You may not be the best, but the confidence should be at an all-time high that the only way that I lost in my career up until this point on the biggest stage was the most scandalous shit that we have seen in the past 3 weeks, of course, mind you. 3
yeah,
weeks.
really. I mean, yeah, you go back, it's just scandal after scandal after scandal recently is very true. But, I don't look at it necessarily as targeted against Nascimento in the same way as I look at it as the referee bending to the will of Abdullayev. And that is the very concerning part about this. Yes, I certainly agree with that being, the thing that stands out the worst to me. This is, it's like I always reference, like in baseball, you see like the coach come out of the dugout and he's up in the umpire's face, whatever. Does the umpire ever change his ruling? Of course not, because you cannot bend to the will of the ref or the coach or the players, right? Like, you have to be the law. You know what I mean? You have to be impartial. Yes, that you certainly should be, but like you can't be reacting to what is being like dictated to you. And that's what Abdullayev did. And that's unfortunately why Nascimento was on the receiving end of all of this garbage. That does not necessarily count for how the ending happened, though. I mean, like the ending was maybe more where you have a little bit of a point there, but him giving him these warnings, like Abdullayev was doing anything. That's exactly right. I mean, like, he's sitting like in the beginning when he was starting to emote and starting to get frustrated, he was standing stationary in the center of the octagon. It's like, brother, like, if you want to talk about inactivity from your opponent, you need to look inward as well. You have not moved from the monster can.
What I will say, and listen, it would be a different story if Tahir whatever the fuck I can say his name any other day, Abdullayev. It would be different if he was like exciting and fun, and like I've made excuses for people like that's just their fighting style. Sometimes they get a little down and dirty. This is just being so shit you have to cheat. Like this is cheating because you have to. That's the problem here with that. But also the problem is and this is we'll talk about this with a later fight, of course. This more lies on the referee. Like fighters, things are going to happen in the cage. Like they're going to eye poke, they're going to kick each other in the dick. It is the referee's job to not let them do that. Like they could do whatever they want. That is on them. If they want to get disqualified, that is up to them. Doesn't necessarily happen because the referees aren't doing what the fuck they should be. But if fighters are going to have that dirty style and get away with it, they have to be at least fun, exciting, and crafty about it. At least, for the time, for the argument's sake. I mean, Abdullayev is clear as day cheating on broad TV, and the referee just didn't. He has his drunk goggles on or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, there were a couple of really bad moments of some, bad foul situations that just were not called. The referee bending to the will of the fighter when he was complaining, also a very bad look, and then the stoppage being very bad. This was just like a three punch combo here of bad reffing from Jim Perdios, who he's a newer ref to the roster as well. Like, I mean, I only believe that I first started seeing him on Road to UFC this year. I believe. I mean, he might have been on some of like maybe like the Australia cards in years past, but like he's not one of the regular mainstays. So like when I saw him on Road to UFC, I was like, okay, maybe this is a new guy. I always talk about how we need more referees and better training. This at least was part of the more referees part, but no, he just wants to fit in with the rest of the shitty refs. So he does what he does here. I mean, this is just a really bad look for a guy who is just now starting to become part of the fold here. I really don't like that for his trajectory going forward, starting off at least.
what I would say, and this is what I think should happen, of course, and this is what I think will happen. I do not think we will see Abdullayev probably back immediately. I mean, I don't. I personally am not the one who's going to say this dude needs another shot. Like that. First off, it wasn't good performance. He whined like a little girl, and he fucking cheated like he's a motherfucker. Jefferson Nascimento, though, this is a performance that warrants a second chance because he came in and he filled your card. He took the fight on short notice, up a weight class, against a very scary opponent. Now that we know that he's a fucking dangerous guy, he's not just a cheater; he is a dangerous cheater. And then to take the fight on short notice, up a weight class, to risk your undefeated record, I think Nascimento needs a redemption. Whether
Yeah.
whatever you want to say, I listen, and I'm not even opposed to this because he jumped into the card kind of in a weird way on short notice. Give him a contender series fight. Listen. We saw him against a debut guy. It may as well be the contender series fight right here on the UFC card. So give Nascimento, throw a dog a bone because I'm a big fan of this dude, not because of his fighting style, not because of any other things, but he was willing to risk all these things. The adversity that he faced is probably the most that he's going to when it comes to an unclean matchup. Um, and I think a lot of these things, whether he was too evasive and people are like, oh no, he was boring. It's on short notice, guys. He doesn't have a game plan. He's just got to go wing it. Like just throw a dog a bone. Give Nascimento his redemption. I think it's only fair.
Yeah, and I mean that was going to be my point that you made about him losing his O in this fight. I mean, what a way to go when it comes to that, unfortunately. But it is the point. I mean, like he did step up. This is what happens. This is certainly what happens in the UFC. I mean, we talk about it literally every week when it comes to the refereeing and judging and stuff. So it's like obviously he wanted to be here enough to take the risk. Go into a fight like this, not knowing exactly what was going to be on the other side of it. And he gets, this is the situation. I think it would be warranted to give him one more shot. And like, you were talking about him going on the contender series. I mean, you can do that, or you could just give him a contender series guy in his next fight. That's another fine thing to do. Have him start off another card, put this guy in the apex, give him another chance to, like actually have a little bit more of a standard UFC experience, and then just see from there. If he, if it doesn't go his way there, or if he has a performance that's really terrible, then maybe you make the choice at that point. But this is not a good representation of what he's capable of, and it's certainly not a good reflection of what the organization should be offering to fighters. I mean, like, you gotta look at it as a two-way street here. I mean, the fighters are here to fight, of course, but the organization should be here to provide a fair and balanced platform for them to perform on. So
yeah, well, the thing that I would say moving forward for Nascimento, the last thing that I would hope for him, because it just goes back to this is what the fight game is about. Sometimes you lose. It's how you take your loss. And I think we haven't seen him pop out with a Twitter account talking about Herb Dean, fire him, sign the petition. We haven't seen him doing a whole run like that. I think he'll properly take his L, and it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. Everything was weighed against you. You did not deserve it. Whether you were going to win by judge's decision or not, they maybe weren't even going to do that for you. Whatever you want to say, but hold your head high that people like me, the people who are watching the sport, who are paying attention, like you did gain a fan. Like Jefferson Nascimento, like I'm down to see it. It may not be pretty, but I think he did enough to garner respect from the audience. Let me say that.
I say he must have because, the type of performance that he had here, you're usually the one to be, eviscerating this type of performance. So obviously he did something right to you.
Nah, he was bombing him, bro. Every
It is true.
time, bro, he was whooping him, and he was whooping him so bad he was getting frustrated and crying to the ref about it. Like that, you listen. Yusuf Zalal is it's one thing, seeing him at the end of the round doing his little shit, like brother. Nascimento was not about that shit. He had a game plan. I'm gonna stay on the outside. I gotta gas this dude out, and if he gets close, I'm gonna slug him. And after he started cheating, he realized there was nothing I'm gonna be able to do. Man, just
Yeah.
finish it out, finish strong. I hate to say it, especially
Yeah.
in this game.
No, I mean, I'm fine with it in a general sense too, exactly for that reason. Because when they did engage, he was landing some really nice shots. I mean, like he really put some leather on when it was in close range. And also, I mean, Abdullayev made me hate him so much in this fight that really, I mean, I'm a Jefferson Nascimento fan by default. So
There you go. Yeah, this
yeah.
is my hero of the card for real.
Yeah, and then like what we had said, Tahir Abdullayev, please do not bring this man back. The way that he conducted himself in this fight is unbecoming of this level of the sport, as far as I'm concerned. I really do not want to see this guy again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, good deal. We'll see what they do with Jefferson, but Tahir unfortunately gets the win there. Another unfortunate. I don't know. I guess maybe we'll talk it through and see what you think. But this is Bekzat Almakhan versus Jean Matsumoto. Now we both predicted Jean Matsumoto to win this fight, and he did indeed win this fight on the judges' scorecards unanimously. I might add. I think a lot of people were not satisfied with the referee, excuse me, not the refereeing, with the judging in this fight. I mean, I would probably class myself in that same category. This did not seem like a John Matsumoto win to me. What did you think, Chase?
Let me start with a story because
Yes.
this is great. This is where I was really frustrated with Thinker. Guys, you're gonna listen to this. On
Oh,
Saturday, I was frustrated with Thinker during this fight because I was having internet issues. Correct. I This is a true statement. This is 100% facts. Internet was hating me and I was hating them too. It was mutual. I I'm upstairs, unplugging the router, plugging it back in. I'm on data, because I got to be upstairs, towards the light. And so I'm watching it on my phone, and I'm watching this fight, So I'm kind of understanding, Bekzat's doing some good stuff, knocked him down. He's got that big old cut on his head, looking good. So I get down, I got the internet working, and I'm still making sure it's good. And I get on Thinker Stream, and I'm like, man, I am having some shit internet issues. I don't remember what I said. And Thinker's response was, "Well, you're here right now, so you're doing good. I will murder you. You are horrible to me."
what I was saying is that the internet must be working to some degree because I mean, like obviously it was not a blackout situation. That's all I meant. I wasn't trying to be mean to you.
No, you're okay. No, you were rage baiting me really hard right there, dude. I tell
It
you.
was unintentional, I swear.
But no, so yeah, at that moment, it was up, but it was not up for good signal. I'll tell you that. So it took me a
Gotcha.
really long time to actually get settled back in. I was watching this one on my phone, and so maybe that is how I came to the conclusion of that. I also thought Bekzat Almahan this time,
I
Alma
know, yeah.
won this fight. And again, I was watching this on my phone. It was cutting out. The internet didn't work. But yes, for what I was able to see here, Bekzat was whooping bro's ass, and he was defending all the takedowns, which is like crazy to me. It's like the one thing that, like, yeah, this is weakness, and which I kind of thought John Matsumoto was pretty decent at. I mean, he's got a good frame for it too, but Bekzat was working this dude over from what I was seeing, and that was pretty crazy. So unanimous decision, 29-28. I didn't even look. I'm not even gonna lie to you because I was fixing the internet. I was like, all right, Bekzat, cool. He whooped him. He got the cut, knocked down. I went to go fix the internet, and I come back and I look at this unanimous decision for fucking John Matsumoto is crazy, but I got the pick right. So
Yeah, same, obviously. But yeah, no, I mean, the issue that I saw in this fight was that Matsumoto was just way too slow to start every round. It was every round. It's like he's waiting for something to click, but every single round he's doing that. And I'm like, dude, we talk about this every week about fast starting. And like Matsumoto is a guy who, like, when he does get his rhythm, like he can get into a nice flow state. His striking is really crisp when he's like when it's all on point, and he's just in the zone. But like, it took him it felt like the start of the fight every round, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, this one. What I will say, this is an interesting one because yes, you are right. John Matsumoto was really sluggish for some reason. I don't know what was going on here, but Bekzat, on the other hand, I have definitely seen better striking performances from him. It didn't seem like he was like, listen, 70 for 160. I mean, Bekzat is a pretty volume striker. It just seems like the stats may be a little wrong. It seemed like he could have been landing a little more. It seemed like he just I've seen different levels to his striking. He has turned it up before, kind of deal. I think he was really focused on the takedowns, and I think that worked out in his favor. I mean, he defended 8 of them, and then obviously, well, that worked out in his favor. It didn't win him the fight, but if you're from the person who's watching it before the judges fought, like this was winning him the fight. You know, it wasn't the best on the feet, but it was making up for it with his takedown defense. And John Matsumoto was cut open, knocked down. Like, where did Bro not win 2 of those rounds? Because those happened separately. Like, I'm
Well,
confused.
yeah, because this is definitely a case where every round of this fight was a little bit different. So, I mean, like round one was a little bit slower on both sides, but definitely, the Matsumoto side, it started off slow, whatever, but Bekzat was still kind of getting himself into this fight as well. But Bekzat was consistent in round one. Matsumoto did get a big takedown at the end of the round, but to think that the takedown like won him the round, his corner was saying that. I thought it was
That
ridiculous.
that's where I'm thinking is like, how were they right? Like, okay, obviously, John won 2 rounds or whatever. So, like, did he actually take that first round? Like, were they genuinely correct about that? Because props to them. I guess they've read the fucking handbook, brother. Like,
I mean,
holy shit.
it's crazy to think that that might be the case when if you're going off of like things that shouldn't be the thing that win you the round. If you recall, Matsumoto was dropped in round one as well. I mean, but not he was not dropped. This is something I wanted to mention here because we were talking about it on the watch along. He was off balance and it was like a push strike. Like
Mhm.
the shot landed. It did land. Yes, he did get punched in the face and he did go down, but he was off balance when it happened. He did not get knocked down. It wasn't a flash knockout or anything like that. He just happened to be off balance and a strike landed at that time. He went down. He was fine. But still, again, should that win Bekzat the round? No, I mean that in and of itself should not be the thing. I think the consistency of what Bekzat was doing in the round, that is what won him the round. It wasn't just that one instance; it was the whole round. You judged the round as a whole. So to say that one takedown at the end of the round, at the end of the round must be stressed here because he couldn't do anything with that takedown. So what purpose did it serve? There's no way he won that round off the takedown.
This was very interesting. The other thing that I can think about, because obviously round 2 is where John gets cut.
Yeah.
And when you go to the corner in round 3, I find it very interesting that they're like, "You're good. It's just not bleeding." And I'm like, "They are damn right. That is a crazy cut that has just no blood coming out of it." And I'm like thinking, like, now that I'm looking at the scoring, it's like, what round did he win here, and how could they have scored it? Okay, they give him the takedown, sure, possibly, but I don't think so. Second round, it's like maybe they didn't know that he was cut because it didn't bleed much. Like, I
Well,
don't.
oh no, you couldn't miss the cut when well, like I mean that's I actually had in the notes. I said the cut was worse than it looked initially because
Mm,
like it was when you see it, yeah, you see like it's like a lot of times with cuts, it's like you see it and you're like that doesn't look like that bad of a cut, and then they wipe it off and you just see how
yeah.
actually large it is. That was definitely that it went right through his eyebrow. So the thing was is that I mean he did turn up nicely in that round. He had some big knee connections. I mean like there was a good amount of striking from Matsumoto in that round, enough that I think you could make the case for him winning that round. So it's like if you want to say that he round one I thought did not go to him, then round two I think he had a better case for at least.
One other thing that I think is interesting is like John Matsumoto at the end of the fight, Bekzat he wanted to stand and bang, and John Matsumoto did the, I'm too smart for you. And it's like, how did he know he was up, bro? Like, are you serious right now? Like,
Because
you.
his corner told him and he believed them. And it's the one time where it actually worked out. I was saying on the watch along, I was like, that is terrible, terrible cornering right there to lead your fighter to believe that he's up around that was close enough that he might not be up seems like a very bad game plan, but somehow, some way it worked out. Very strange. I mean, that's the thing too. So it's like, I would say that round three, like round two, I gave to Matsumoto. Round three was clearly Bekzat, in my opinion. So round one was really the one where you have a little bit of disparity as to who you think you could have gotten it, and I thought it was pretty clearly Bekzat. So round one and three for Bekzat, this seemed like a pretty clear case of a petty theft, in my opinion. But the judges thought otherwise.
Yeah, like I can't believe the judges really rigged it for the wrong person. Like, I don't get it. Like,
The reverse regional bias.
Yeah, they really screwed that one up. I don't know, man. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, fine for us. We both picked Matsumoto to win, but it felt a little, it felt wrong. You know how that feels when it's like you get it right, but you know that it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunate. But I'll fight the fight for Bekzat. You did win in my opinion, bro. For the fight that I was seeing, I I thought you had it, bro. Let me say it.
Same, yeah. I mean, really, there was some nice striking going on from Bekzat in this fight. I think that like really what Bekzat needs to do is like he needs to zero in on the things that he does really well and then do those quicker and more. Like I know he's a volume striker to begin with, but like you need to just be from the gate putting that same like consistent level of output from start to finish every single round because he has the cardio for it. I mean, these guys are bantamweights. He's like he's a guy that I think can do that. So if he just is able to like put that level of a pace on for all 3 rounds and just like pull away like consistently over the course of the fight, I think that that'll be enough to like pull him through in other fights. This one was going to be what it's going to be, unfortunately. But I liked how he fought in this fight. I hope that this is not because I mean he's now on 2 losses, I believe, right? He lost his last one as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah.
yeah,
Bekzat, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Bekzat, yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
well, obviously not John, but
right.
yes to Alessandro Taporia. Yes, correct.
Right. So yeah. So I mean, this is a guy that needs a win now. I would, at least to an extent. I think that he should be able to. Like, I don't want to see him in jeopardy over a fight like this. It's an unfortunate situation in this fight with the decision, but like, just do what you do good a little bit more consistently throughout the course of the whole thing, and you'll be all right. Because this was a good performance, I thought.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say is I feel like this is not the first time John Matsumoto has been cut open really bad. I feel like I've seen him cut before. But the point that I'm making with this one is if he faces somebody who's, got some good elbows, was Chris Biddy a bantamweight? I don't know. But either way, faces somebody with some good elbows, that thing is getting opened up every time. That's what I'll
Yeah,
say.
yeah, that was going to be my point as well. Is that Matsumoto does wear damage. This is now, yeah, we've seen him cut a couple of times. He's a bit quick to bleed, unfortunately, and optics in this sport, you know exactly how that goes. I talk about Zachary Reese syndrome. These very
Yeah.
fair skinned fighters where it's an optics thing. You can't really get around it. It's your genetics, unfortunately, to an extent. Yeah, so he's got to be careful. Got to, I mean, like. I wouldn't say that he like walks with his hands low, but he does get touched. So it's like,
Mhm.
you just got to be aware of that and get your face out of the way. I mean, that was the other thing that Bisping was talking about on with his cornering, saying that like, okay, you have this cut now, this major cut. It's not bleeding anymore. Just don't get punched. And Bisping's like, yeah, that's the fucking point. You never want to get punched. It's like, so, okay, well, fair enough that that's the point, but like, you got to do that now.
Yeah.
So.
No, this one, the thing that I could say for John Matsumoto moving forward is like he did face a high caliber striker in the division. I mean, Bekzat is pretty damn good on the feet, obviously one in our opinion, but so there's not many people that he's going to run into that are just going to light him up on the feet like this. So I think that's maybe something going forward. His next matchup might not be anything close to what this is. So
True. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's always a little unfortunate because you want to hope that losses are what people learn from if they need more to learn, which, I mean, Matsumoto not necessarily actually winning this fight. You hope that, again, it's not even just that he didn't win this fight necessarily. It's also the fact that the cornering I thought was just really not great. I was saying mid fight, I was like, he might need to get a new team if they're cornering him this way. But again, if it works out, then, what do I know? But it's like, if it had worked out how it should have worked out, then maybe there would have been a point there. So I don't like situations like this for reasons like that. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. So hopefully Matsumoto continues on down a good path, and hopefully Bekzat can bounce back after these back-to-back losses.
absolutely.
All right, good deal. Well, this fight right here went just about as well as one could hope in this situation and the circumstances. This, of course, is Daniil Donchenko versus Theodor Berggren. Berggren made it to round 2. I mean, that's not nothing when it comes to a guy like Daniil, who we thought, it was going to basically walk through him, which eventually he kind of did. But I mean, Berggren was very composed in this fight. This, of course, is a short notice replacement. This is the young man who stepped in to fill in for Andreas Gustafsson in this fight against Daniil. And yeah, Berggren, he was out there, weathering the storm. I didn't think that he put on the greatest performance striking wise for himself. But he didn't show any signs of fear in there. I mean, like he really was right up in the action, and Daniil doing what Daniil does, starting off strong. And we'll talk about start strong in this sport. Like that, Daniil is a great example of a guy who really goes after it from the very start of this thing. Commentary was saying that his team was trying to teach Daniil how to learn to not put 100% into every one of his strikes. And I'm like, as a fan, that I might not necessarily like that, but probably wise in the big picture because he did, have some cardio problems against Alex Morono there.
Did you hear Bisping's comment to that?
That he basically said something similar, right? He's, that coach needs to be fired,
You need to fire them right now. Yeah, they failed you. What? No, funny enough, but this fight was interesting to say the least because Berggren, I kind of respect him. 8-4. I mean, it doesn't tell the whole story. That's where his journey in the UFC begins. Obviously anything can happen now. It may not look pretty, but it may shape out because he is a tough guy. He kind of gave me Billy Elikana vibes. I'm not necessarily anywhere near the skill level or finishing ability, but the toughness I saw it. I kind of see the similarities here, guys. I'm looking at him and I'm like, this is my next son of Susie, of course. And he came in and he, again, no fear. He was throwing powerful shots. He actually, and this would be key against any prospect, especially if somebody you don't like. You got to look at what weakness was he shown here. And it's not that Daniil shown any weakness against Berggren. Berggren made me think for a split second, like, let me calm down. Daniil is like still a prospect. Like he's not invincible, like he won the Ultimate Fighter, which we kind of talk about. It's not necessarily the largest, skill potential kind of deal. Daniil, I feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. And in this fight, I was like, man, this Berggren dude, he might be just that kind of fucking dude that does this, And it's not necessarily the worst thing, but it is a point to Berggren. Like he made me lose a little hope for a second. He came in there with a plan. It did not work out. But for the first round, I mean, he was doing the damn thing,
Well, that's the note that I had was that, he wasn't active enough, but I thought, he might have been scaling for late game, considering that we know that Daniil has some cardio issues. Sadly, that was not to be. So, you got to be a little bit more judicious about if that's your plan, you got to be mixing in a little bit more than what he was doing to, make it a little bit more competitive earlier on, because like any fight, you can get caught. I mean, like the head kick that ended up knocking him out, or at least starting the knockout sequence. Daniil didn't even expect to be able to land something like that. He said it in the post-fight speech. He was like, yeah, I didn't know that I could do that. So it's like, he's just kind of throwing whatever out there, and then something like that lands, and it ends up being the thing that starts the ending sequence. It's, that's always the potential at any point in the fight. So you can't be, letting someone gas themselves out consistently without the output and the offense to backfill that. So that's really the big note that I have, because I liked the composure. I thought that was the big takeaway from this kid, is that, he's going against Daniil is a hench dude. I mean, he's a kind of a shorter guy, but, he's really built. He goes out there like a tank, just throwing crazy stuff out there, seeing what sticks. And he was doing a good job of weathering that, but you can't just do that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like, so, back to when Billy Elikana made his debut on short notice, against Bogdan Gushkov, and he almost finished him in the first round. And it's like, holy shit, Bogdan Gushkov, I mean, he is just a prospect, Daniil not necessarily got to the point where I was like, holy shit, this dude's going to finish him. But Berggren had me thinking, like, man, Daniil, he is human, man. Let me not get ahead of myself. I've been thinking he's going to smoke this guy in round one, and he didn't. I've always said the thing that a great fighter has on their side, obviously, destiny. You may not think that it's going to work. They just do shit sometimes, and a head kick fucking lands. And he goes, rocks him after, hits him a few more times. The thing that Berggren can hang his hat on is he did not go unconscious. I mean, he got his ass whooped after, but that's something that's like, all right, my chin held up. Let me react a little better next time instead of flying across the fucking kit. Daniil earned his finish. It was not as quick as I thought it was going to be. And I'm glad that he's still He's still good, man. He's really, really got this shit.
Well, and that's what I had to bring up as well is that, when it comes to the Daniil side of this equation, I like the variety of striking from Daniil is always the thing that is most, great to see for me. Like, you see this guy from the start of the fight, he's always coming out like a bat out of hell. But it's not so, I mean, it's a little wild, but it's wild in a fun way. So like, okay, you think like, yeah, the difference between a guy who's just going out there like the dust cloud, kind of deal. This is a dude who is a little closer to that than other guys, but like he does have such a great variety of strikes that do end up landing. I mean, like there's enough accuracy in those strikes that it makes it all worth. The teeps were also really nice for Daniil. I mean, like, he's mixing in these kicks a lot earlier on in the fight, these lower, the body kicks, and then he finally goes up for that high kick. And it was like, man, I mean, so you hit every strike that you can think of. You hit a number of different kicks that you could think of. And then you go for this high kick that you don't even normally do. And then that's the thing that starts the sequence. I was like, this is a really solid, like, skills display from Daniil in this fight. So I was pretty happy with this performance on his side overall. Now, granted, you should do that against a guy who's coming in on short notice, who is not of UFC caliber, et cetera, et cetera. This was a setup fight from the beginning. We knew this was going to be the case, but at least if it was going to be that, you did the damn thing. You understood the assignment.
And that's where I think it's different. This isn't just like, oh, we found a short notice guy for our undefeated killer who knocks everybody out. It's like they didn't set up Berggren for that. Like, obviously, this is a tough fight, but it was a lot closer than what it seemed, Like, and this is, again, Daniil is still a prospect. He's not necessarily Ilya on his way up. He hasn't hit the point where he's just murdering people. He's still at the point where he's got vulnerabilities and people may be able to capitalize on it. And I don't think we should be that surprised if it happens. But if you are a big fan of Daniil and you've seen him, grow so far, I would have some pretty good confidence that he's going to be good. Guys, have you seen the guy that's from Ukraine that's also in his division that he could potentially train with? His wrestling is going to be, who else he trains with that have good wrestling? He trains in Tiger Muay Thai with Shevchenko and Peter Yan and the main event guy. So I don't know. Daniil is a very, very good example of a ceiling that we maybe don't know if we know it all yet.
That was going to be my point is when it comes to him being the Ultimate Fighter winner, he's probably one of the better Ultimate Fighter winners that we've seen out of the last couple of years, I would say.
He's 24 years old. So I would also agree. He's got way more. He's got a lot to go. So
yeah,
I'm happy for him.
He needs to not be a dirt ball. That's a big part of, what people have a little bit of a problem with. He fouled again in this fight too. I mean, it was, it wasn't as bad this time, unintentional nut shot in this fight. Round one, he got the kick to the nuts. It happens, but just have one fight where you don't foul at all. How about that? Then we can at least put it out of our minds. But he needs to not be a dirt ball, and he just needs to work on his cardio a little bit in the later rounds. But other than that, I think he's pretty golden.
Yeah, 100%. Like Daniil.
Yeah. Me too. I am a fan, and I want him to continue doing good things. So good deal in this fight. Hopefully Berggren gets his shot again at some point, coming back in maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. You can give him a Nascimento. They're both welterweight. I mean, I know he wants to go down a weight, but brother, here's a fight for you right here.
I love it. I think it is a great idea. There you go. And no contender series needed for either of them now that they've, proved their self, or at least they fulfilled their obligation. How about
there you go. I love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, next up, this was an interesting one to me, of course. This is Kaan Ofli versus Javier Reyes. Now, coming into this, we had, I think, a little bit of a preconceived notion about Kaan Ofli. I said maybe Kaan is leveling up a little bit here. They did say that he had been working on his striking, coming into this fight. The thing, I'll tell it to you the way that they said it on the broadcast and what actually made it stick in my mind. They said that when Kaan was working with his new camp, as far as the striking goes, they said he had asked them to treat him like he was a white belt again. Now, I mean, I think that they probably were talking about overall training with that. I mean, white belt in the striking department, maybe with karate, I guess. But point is that like he was at least saying like, take me back down to fundamentals and build me up from there. For a guy like Kaan Ofli, who we've been very skeptical of, I legitimately saw a tweet. This might have been posted in the Discord, but I saw a tweet where somebody was like earnestly asking. It was a picture of Kaan Ofli, and it just said, what is this guy good at? And I was like, whether or not that is valid is besides the point. If that is a perception in somebody's mind, then you know what the overall atmosphere surrounding this fighter is when it comes to the conversation. So if he is at a point in his own mind where he's like, I need to be rebuilding the foundational elements of what make me great because I know I am great, that I think that speaks to a level of introspection that sad to say, I think like few fighters have. Like, I mean, you have to really like be emotionally intelligent, maybe a little bit haughty for it, but like, you have to think deeper into yourself to know that you need that level of improvement. And if he is doing that with a performance like this now, against a newcomer, maybe it's a little bit questionable if that's going to continue on later on. But if you're doing it enough to get this type of performance out of yourself at this stage after having lost a couple and being somewhat questionable, I think that this is a good thing for Kaan Ofli. I think that I'm going to give him a little bit more leeway coming into the next one.
I am going to be, and this is for Kaan Ofli's good. I appreciate him, the Ultimate Fighter. I watched this season, and I'm not gonna act like I'm your biggest fan, and I'm not gonna turn into one after a performance like this. So what I will say is, it sounds very profound when you win. Man, I had him build me back up. I started over. And if you lose, it's like, man, I started over. Like, and it's like, well, what did you go to day one of kickboxing class for, bro? Like, the point that I'm making here, I think Javier Reyes, this is somebody who I had high hopes for. Man, I cannot get over this. We'll talk about the fight itself, but this is the one guy I really feel like I screwed up. Like, I looked at this guy, I saw what the raw potential was, and I feel like I messed up and I should have known when he showed up in the UFC. Bro did the YMCA dance on his debut, almost got chinned by a 40-year-old man. It's not the best debut. I don't know what he came out to this time. I was on commercial break. He may have had another dance break. But the point is with that is, I think Javier Reyes, I think bro is just not it. I think he maybe had a level of confidence, and then unfortunately some people get to the highest level and the skill and the confidence don't match up to what I would hope. Sometimes it does. Sometimes people pan out, but there are other times that I'm going to be watching the sport for a very, very long time. So I'm going to have this happen plenty of times where somebody comes in and they look like they got the hunger. They look like they're ready to do whatever it takes to win. And then they get into a fight where, like this, where it doesn't look like they're as hungry. Then it starts to show how really not technical they are when it comes to striking. This dude is like not very great. Like, he's got the marauder base and he just throws punches out there. None of them fucking landed. And then he gets fucking chinned again. Like, Latino chin is one thing, bro. I don't get it. I don't understand the science behind it, but this one, I'll tell you, it did not work. It did not work because Kaan rocked this dude, dropped him to the ground, like, and we've seen people who get dropped who have looked like, with 6 losses, Javier Reyes, I thought you were one of these guys who has a lot of experience. You've been around the block. If I get dropped, I go for a leg. I do something. No, he gets fucking dropped and he looks like he's on the fucking 8th dimension. Kaan Ofli, gets on top, submits him, dude taps out. Like, I'm not trying to hate Kaan, but I think this is just, we made a bad assumption here with Javier Reyes, bro. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that the one thing on the Reyes side that stuck out to me was that the hands were just way too low from the start. This guy like keeps no guard whatsoever when it comes to the hands, and I think that either is him having too much confidence in the chin, Latino or otherwise, and also underestimating the speed of Kaan. I mean, Kaan is too fast for no guard. That's literally the note that I had, and it's like, whether or not you think that he has the power to back that up, that should almost be a secondary, not even really considered thought. It doesn't matter. I mean, like, whether or not he has the one shot power, the fact is that if your hands are that low, like consistently, you're just going to get touched up if you can take the shots or not. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's a volume striking, a lay on of that, or if it's just the knockout shot that does end up coming, like one way or another, it's neither of them are good. So Reyes having the low hands, then also kind of just looking sluggish from the start of this fight too. Like he never really got started, and then before he knew it, he was just getting dropped. So it's like, we talk about the Latino chin. We saw the Latino chin not work out twice on this card. At the very least, maybe I'll have to go through and see if there were any other ones, but certainly this, and then of course we'll talk about the main event. So not always going to be the tried and true, a conventional wisdom coming true, I guess I should say. And Kaan Ofli, like I said, I mean, I am going to say that I think that maybe there were some things that we did not recognize in there. I will stand by that. But I can also see a little bit maybe of what you're saying from the other side. Because we just did not see a lot from Reyes in this fight, and that's the thing that had he gone out there and put on like a better performance before, and he just got caught, then it's like, okay, maybe it's a little bit something different. But when you don't put anything forth at all, and which is really what this fight was, this was a one-sided fight because Kaan was off to a good start and a fast start, and he is a fast guy to begin with. You pair that with power. You just don't have a lot to latch on to when it comes to Reyes in this fight. So I don't know if that, means that he's not that great in the big picture. Maybe he gets another shot to prove one way or the other. But, in this performance, he certainly did not look good, and Kaan did.
I just think it's a level of confidence for Javier Reyes that he didn't think that bro was going to knock him down. Hands down. You're right. Hands down the entire time. I mean, that's his style. I'm not trying to say like, oh, he thought Kaan Ofli was not a target. No, he doesn't think anybody's a fucking threat. Like he's just in there thinking he can do whatever he wants. I can just have my hands low. I can throw shots willy-nilly. I can not even look like I have a game plan enacted, And then one of the dudes that's like, come on, guys, like what we have seen before this, has not been championship material. So if Javier Reyes was overlooking bro and bro leapfrogged him with a performance like this, I mean, who else who's he gonna take serious? Like, I mean, after a loss like this, I mean, sure, if you're finally about to get it together after 6 fucking losses, I don't know, but like this is not a great look. Like I said, when he got knocked down, he didn't look like he was ready to continue on too much. I don't know.
Well, that also might be the counter argument to the thought process of like guys coming in with a lot of experience to the UFC. It's like they come in with a lot of pre-UFC experience, and then they actually come into the organization, especially if they get the win. I mean, that really does track here now, because it's like, look, I fought all these other guys. I might have taken a couple of losses, but I fought all these other guys. I came to the UFC and I got a win here. I am that untouchable guy. Well, obviously not. So, I guess it's just one of those things where you never know the exact thought process with everybody. But when you see the guy with the hands low like that, he's almost inviting what ended up happening. So unfortunate for Reyes, but not for Kaan. And like I said, we can differ on this point, but I'm going to file this away. I'm not necessarily saying that like, oh, Kaan is, the next up now or anything like that, but I'm certainly going to file this away in my mind to know that I heard that Kaan was intentionally trying to level up his striking, and B, he knocked him down and clubbed and subbed him. Those two right there back to back, that to me signals something that I should at least have is like that, what I always say, that feeling in the back of your mind that nags at you when you're trying to make your picks. That's what that one's going to be for me.
Hell yeah. No, I respect it. No, this one, easy finish for Kaan.
Yeah, it certainly was. So, good job, Mr. Ofli.
Hell yeah.
Moving on to the next one, and also speaking of easy finishes, Nursulton Ruziboev versus Andrey Pulyaev. This is what I want to say starting this off, Chase, okay? Hear me now. Nursulton Ruziboev, if you ever hear me say, be like Nursulton, what I am saying, this right here, now I would not say that Pulyaev was running in the same way that we've seen other people run, but we do know that Pulyaev is an outside fighter, a dude who is a little evasive. We saw it in the Gauthier fight very clearly, was trying to maybe start off in this fight like this. This is what you do. What we were just talking about for the first fight, the Abdullayev versus Nascimento fight. This is what you do. Nursulton Ruziboev went out there and he made this fight his. And again, I'm not saying that Pulyaev ran the same way that we've seen other people run, but what Nursulton did in this fight, I do believe that had he ran the same way that other people ran, he still could have done this and gotten the same outcome. So I want to be right here, right now saying, this is your example. The next time that we see some dude evasive, pulling the Zalal, pulling the Kevin Borjas, the next time that we see it, be like Nursulton, be like Ruziboev, because this dude right here made this win happen. I'm so glad that I finally have an example of someone who accomplished this, because it is possible.
It definitely is. And what is also possible is me feeling like crunching the numbers didn't work. I came into this one and I'm like, man, Ruziboev really hasn't, he came in here and we're supposed to know that he's got 20 submissions. He's a finisher, yada, yada, yada. But I just haven't really seen it. I haven't seen that personally with my own eyes. It doesn't register. Pulyaev, he has proven me wrong. I was expected, if he's proven me wrong 3 times, what's a fourth, So I put a lot of stock into him being able to figure this out. And that was a very big mistake, because Ruziboev, over 40 plus professional bouts, this dude's experienced. He knows how to win. And he made it look as easy as he should have. It took a little longer. He was grinding, and I'm obviously first round, but he went after him, picked him up, slammed him on the ground, took his back. And I mean, it was done after that. I mean, I was a little confident. Okay, he's never been subbed. Okay, Pulyaev, maybe he can just keep his hands up there. Kept trying to punch him, and then he gets choked out. And that's really all she wrote. It wasn't anything too crazy. Ruziboev, like you said, went right after him, picked him up, slammed him, got him to got his back, and he was ready to just work right there. He had 3 minutes to sit there and work with a full back take, and he's got 20 submissions on his record. I'm not surprised that it happened. Obviously, I picked Pulyaev, but I should have seen this one coming, is what I will say. And this is on me. So,
well, I'll be a little bit more charitable to you on this, because what I had said on the watch along when this fight had concluded, I basically went into a similar rant to what I just went on about Nursulton here, getting the win, finding the win, making the win happen. And then I had said at the end of it, I was like, don't tell me that Nursulton Ruziboev has a padded record. And then I stopped myself and I said, nah, that maybe he still does. Let's not get out of hand here. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say, just because that is possibly and probably the case to an extent, still does not mean that the padding is the entirety of it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to, the two things can be true at once. The record can be slightly padded, and also he can have gained the experience and the knowledge from, some of those easier wins going into some of the harder ones later on, to have the package that you now see before you hear. So that, and then on the other side with Pulyaev, we knew that, like, we saw this guy was not necessarily, you know what I mean? Like, he'd been a little bit questionable to begin with. I think a lot of people had that not wishful thinking, but like I think that they had that galaxy brain moment there where they were like, look, we've seen enough out of this guy that like he can probably do this again. I think that's what I'm saying. I think I'm being charitable about this to you, because I think that the thought process tracked with the knowledge that we had of both of these guys. It just wasn't exactly correct.
What I think personally for me, I saw what Pulyaev was able to do against Gauthier, and it wasn't much, but he got up every time. He was willing to continue to let that dude beat on him, which not a lot of people can or will do. So my thought was, he's a tough guy, and he's got a style that, not a lot of people are able to whatever handle. We just saw the first fight he was, whatever you want to say. And I think, for me personally, what I can hang my hat on is I still think these are true, because when you get to the finishing sequence, bro did not tap. He did not tap at all. He was fighting that hand until he was dead, and he was pretty damn close. This is actually a really good stop by Mike Beltran, I think is who it was.
This was Goddard, actually.
Okay, this was a really good stop, because Pulyaev was fighting the hand for a second, and I'm like, oh, he's good. And then, he's kind of stiff there. And then you see Goddard pull his arm. I'm like, why would you pull his arm? He's fighting. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and in that moment, that's actually what I wanted. What I was going to say is, like, you gained the thought process from the Gauthier fight. Gauthier did not choke the living life out of this guy. But in this moment, I actually felt kind of bad for Goddard, because I agree. I thought this was a good stoppage too, because what happened here, if you go back and watch it, is that Goddard checks the arm, but he was already pretty well out at that point, and the arm involuntarily springs back. He had kind of stiffened up. So when he goes to check it, you see him pull back, but it's not him there. It's just his body naturally reacting that way. So Goddard, unbeknownst to him, thought, oh, he must still be here. And then you see his eyes roll back into the back of his skull and his mouth go open. It was a rather scary moment there for a second, at least visually. Obviously, he was fine, but he's up there during the announcement. And
yeah, he took it well.
Look. You go to sleep for a little while. It looks worse. He took a little nap. It's all fine at the end of the day. But I felt bad for Goddard in that moment, because obviously if he had known, he would have stopped it. But the physiology took over.
Yeah, the toughness definitely was there for Pulyaev. I mean, but at the end of the day, you can't tough your way out of blood not going to your head, brother. I mean, he didn't even actually have the choke. He just cranked his neck, and he got it. He got him at an angle where the blood was not going to circulate well. So Pulyaev, I mean, and again, like I said, he took it well. He was up there. He's, congratulations. I do kind of like this dude still. Like, I mean, obviously he let me down, but like he is tough, and like they obviously hate him. They give him everybody that's a monster, it looks like, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, now we know that Nursulton is of that caliber, at least somewhere there. You know what I mean?
He finished the dude with 10 wins, guys. Let's not jump the fucking horse here. He just lost to Joaquin Buckley, who fucking sucked in his last fight. So
I get, you make an okay point there, I suppose. But either
record's still padded, guys. Record is still padded. This dude is like a regional guy for him.
37-9-2. It's just an insane record. Like that's like one of the Chinese records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those guys who come in with these crazy records from China. But either way, I think that this was a really nice win here for Ruziboev. And like I said, the most important thing to me, it's not even about this fight. It's the principle of what Ruziboev accomplished in this fight. That is why I will always remember this fight, because this has to be an MMA touch point. I talk about my little series that I want to start at some point where it's MMA touch points. At least for me personally, this is one of those for me where it's like every time we see these dudes and they're playing the outside and it's like, damn, why are they not engaging, this and that? This is what you do. This is how you counteract that. You make it your fight. That is what Nursulton did. Be like Nursulton Ruziboev.
I love it. What Dana would say, be like Joe Pyfer. Thinker would say, be like Nursulton Ruziboev.
That is exactly what Thinker would say. So good deal here, Mr. Ruziboev.
Speaking of Mr. Beast is up next, guys.
Brother, so this is, of course, Abdul-Rakhman Yakhyaev versus Julius Walker. And I said the second that this fight concluded, and it was the seconds were all that it took, of course. The second that this fight was over, I said, man, Chase, no one is winning that $100,000.
Dude, listen, he is so good at what he does. The challenges they're only getting harder, bro. 10 seconds is all bro needed to make 10 grand. And Yakhyaev walks away with 100 after a performance like this. That's so crazy. I remember it's not even a galaxy brain take or anything. It's not even having like ball knowledge. I mean it is in a little bit, but the fact that I was able to say there is going to be a point in Yakhyaev's career where he is going to reach the second round. It's going to happen.
Sure.
Just not going to be this one. It is not even close to going to be this one. And it couldn't have been more picture perfect. Like 8 seconds is crazy short. And you forget it's short, but in fight time, it kind of feels a lot longer because he walks in, they're idle for a second. He feints a jab and then he gets folded and then he falls to the mat. And then we get a finishing sequence that he was obviously going to go out and he was, falling out of it kind of deal. And Yakhyaev clearly was going to continue winning. But 8 seconds is pretty crazy. You couldn't have gave bro 10. You couldn't have gave him 2 more. I don't know. Like 8 is really fucking crazy, bro. Because again, it wasn't just one shot. It was one shot, but they stood there for 4 seconds. He hit him, 2 seconds gone by. The ref gave him a split second to start fighting back. And fair play to him. The dude was folded in half like a fucking lawn chair, but 8 seconds is fucking crazy, guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is the issue that you run into, of course, where it's like, obviously he's dropped. It didn't even look like that crazy of a shot, by the way. I mean, look at the replay of it. It's just a right hook, well placed and powerfully thrown. That's really all it was. But so it's like this is what you end up with in a situation like that. So he goes down off of it, and then immediately, it's the literal start of the fight. This is as fresh as they are ever going to be in the fight. He goes in, he's hammering away, and it's like, do you allow the unanswered shots through the guard for longer, knowing that it's potentially not going to change the outcome, or do you just stop it? I also err on the side, you got to give him at least a couple more, man. I mean, but he is throwing them rather quickly. I think he got like 4 or 5 off, something like that. I want to say something in that range. Now, of course, Walker, who was pretty well out, does spring right back up, and now he's protesting, and it's like, nah, bro. I mean, come on, dude. There's nothing to protest here. But I think that there has to be a happy medium between those two. It's like, yes, you are going to stop the fight, but you do got to make it as definitive so that we don't have this conversation. That's really all that at the end of the day that I would want, is to be like, look, he gave him the chance, bro. I mean, like, he's sitting there, he's turtled up, hands are in front of the face. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, done by 7. Come on, bro. No more than 7 is needed, but like, that it's always a balancing act. I wouldn't say that this was the worst stoppage I have ever seen, especially considering there's a number of like close-ish stoppages on this card. So, this was not the worst one, but at the same time, it is that like tightrope that you walk. So either way, though, even the ref wanted to see the record broken here, brother. I mean, even though it wasn't broke, this is the 7th fastest finish in UFC history and the 2nd fastest in light heavyweight history. So he didn't break the light heavyweight record. But
What I will say, I mean, the thing about Yakhyaev, it's kind of similar to what I've said about Josh Van. It's like he's just effortlessly making history. Yakhyaev already has a 33-second submission on his name, and with Ribeiro, that was like a minute and 12, kind of deal. This one right here is just adding to the mystique. I mean, he really is, like, he's not playing around, guys. You know how many times we've seen people get dropped and that motherfucker just stands there, or he jumps in their guard, like they do something stupid. No, this dude truly is. And think of how basic of a nickname Hunter is, like, what does that even mean? He truly does kind of give off the vibes that he is here to dominate. Like, he is great. Like, he gives like the predator vibes, like Francis Ngannou. Get the fuck out of here, brother. This guy, this is the predator. Fuck. Jesus.
I mean, look, what I said about him, I think, is still really ringing true. He is ushering in the next wave of this division that needs a shakeup desperately at this point, I would say. Yeah, I mean, it's like you can make certain cases for certain people, this and that, but as a whole, this is the division that really is right for, some new blood, a little bit of rejuvenation. Him, Ivo Bereniewski, these are the guys that are on the next wave. I said it on the last episode, and it's certainly remaining true. So, performances like this, literally the last note that I have on my note sheet here is hot shot this man. If there is a division that needs hot shotting right now, it is this one. It would be appropriate. There's times where you hot shot other people for different reasons. These might not necessarily be the biggest personalities in the sport, but if you want to talk about people that are going to draw attention based on performance alone, you're seeing it in real time with people like who I just mentioned, most especially this guy. You set the 2nd fastest record in the division. I think that comes with a little bit of a carrot attached to it. So give this man that carrot.
I have definitely heard enough. Give him Yuri Prohaska right now.
And see, the craziest thing about it is that people would scoff at something like that, like there isn't an actual case to be made. And I know that it might seem crazy to a lot of people, and maybe Yuri might be a little bit high, but I'm telling you that wherever around Yuri is probably correct. Think about who else is in this division at the top of it. Pretty much everybody coming off of losses in the champ out on injury. I mean, on injured reserve. It's like this division is in somewhat of a shambles situation here at this point. I don't think it would be wrong to give this guy somebody in the top 15, at the very least top 10 would be maybe a stretch, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, he's a beast, literally, Mister, and I love him. He's cool.
And I also give you credit all the time, Chase, because people have been calling him Turkish Mr. Beast. I don't know if you heard that somewhere else or if you made that up.
No, I definitely heard that somewhere else.
Oh,
but he does look like him. I mean, he does.
I was really crediting you for coming up with that.
I did hear that too. I did hear you give me major props for making that up. I am not the inventor of the Mr. Beast comparison. I hate to break it to you guys. but I do ride for it. He has challenges all over the division, and if anybody wants to claim their money, I mean, I listen, Julius Walker, man. I hope you made something, brother. I hope you made more than your standard 12,000 or whatever. That's all that I'll say.
True, definitely. I mean, and made your 12,000 or extra money or whatever just to get shown for what you actually are in this sport. And I'm really,
True.
and I'm not trying to be too hard on Julius Walker. He's just not of the caliber of the UFC to me. Really, he might be one of those guys that'll get a win here and there, but to think that this guy is going to be elite in this division, I think is a fallacy. So this was going to happen. This will continue to happen at times. It's going to be, I think Walker at best is going to be a checkerboard kind of fighter, probably candy cane record over here. So whatever the case may be, but you're going up against Turkish Mr. Beast. And I did want to say this now, obviously you poked some holes in my theory of how this name came to be, but regardless of who came up with it, if the fight fan community wants to see this man hotshotted a little bit faster, this is how you make it happen. This is how you signal to the organization that you want this guy to be the next up. Mr. Beast is a YouTuber, right? YouTube videos have thumbnails. Put this guy into Mr. Beast-like thumbnail images. Circulate those on Twitter. Guarantee you that the organization will notice.
100%. No, I've definitely thought about making them myself, but I'm obviously going to get a canvas made of Yakhyaev here soon as well. Appreciate it.
You're going to have a whole wall full of framed pictures of MMA adjacent imagery. I like it.
Yeah, here we go. Wait till I got all the area that you guys can see it. Don't worry.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, good deal. Well, good deal in this fight for Abdul-Rakhman Yakhyaev, of course. Moving on to our featured prelim.
Sadly.
I was going to say, I mean, like, it is very unfortunate that this was the featured prelim here. This is Farman Hasanov versus Eric Nolan. We talk about the one long round fights, brother. This was your one long round du jour here. Nolan with absolutely zero answers for the takedowns in this fight. And it was just a lot of the up and down game with Farman Hasanov. He goes up, he goes down, he goes up, he goes down. Eric Nolan, I have to say this also at the start. When you see him on the tail of the tape and you're looking at both of these fighters side by side and you look at Eric Nolan's face, he just has a face that does not scream, I am a killer. And now I'm not saying that you necessarily have to have a face that screams that, but when you see a performance like this, where he gets tossed all around, up and down, left, right, everywhere, all over the place, and then you see this look that he has on his face, go back to the tail of the tape and look at his picture. He just and this guy's like a former Marine too. I'm not saying this guy's not a badass. I mean, he is a professional fighter, a former Marine. This dude deserves his respect, but his face says otherwise. That's all I have to say. And then in a performance like this, you're like, man, his face really did tell you what you needed to know before the fight started.
No, this fight, I mean, we said it. We probably didn't say it on the podcast to be nice, but we were all thinking, why is this the featured prelim? Obviously we have to wait till the actual fights pan out themselves to see what actually is there. But this had no business being on here as the featured prelim. I mean, I get we had a guy from the region. But bro, Eric Nolan, come on, like that. I believed in him. I looked at the records and I believed the experience was going to get it done. I have been wrong plenty of times, and this was another day. And Eric Nolan is not the last guy that I'll be wrong about. I'll tell you that. But Farman Hasanov, none of the debut guys from this region showed out. Let me just say that this was a horrible performance too. I mean, what makes it worse, because sometimes you'll see people who know they put on a bad performance and it wasn't great, and when the bell rings, they kind of just like a woof.
Not this guy.
This guy thought he fucking did it, bro. He thought he fucking did it, bro. I can't believe it.
I love my country. I love fighting. I love the UFC. I love puppy dogs. I love springtime. I mean, this dude had a whole song and dance over here.
Yeah, I can't believe this dude after one of the worst performances on the card, of course. But
all right, let's. I think that we're maybe being a little harsh in that one regard. If your aim was to set the record for welterweight takedowns, then you certainly accomplished that job. I mean, the guy did land 17 of 27
in one round. He landed the most in one round. Miktebek owns the record at welterweight.
I thought that they said that he actually broke that too at the end. Did he not? Maybe
Miktebek got 20. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
20,
fair enough.
I think he had 24. I think or some shit. But either way, continue.
nipping at his heels at the very least. I mean, come on, Jesus Christ, this guy was again, really ragdolling Eric Nolan throughout this thing.
Congrats! You get to fucking you get 17 takedowns on a dude who has no takedown defense.
Brother,
Miktabek did it on Chris Curtis, who has statistically good takedown defense from UFC competition level. This is different than just coming in on your debut against another dude who's not very good and just not being able to hold him down at all during the fight. I mean, he had 11 minutes of control time, but 17 takedowns. He got up 10 times, brother. Fuck.
Well, I mean, you might be saying all of that, but I did not hear Paul Felder call Miktabek the welterweight Marab. I heard it.
Gosh.
I heard it here. I heard him call Hasanov that. So I said, maybe we want to pump the brakes on that, Paul Felder. But no, I mean, look, again, like if your aim was to be dominant in your wrestling, you certainly did that. I mean, you cannot deny that. I mean, the guy was tossing him all over the place. Now he did gas a little bit towards the end of this fight, which was Nolan's opportunity. And that's the one thing I had to say about this fight, as far as like the actual X's and O's here, is that Nolan, if you are allowing yourself, obviously, if you don't have an answer for what you're going up against for those first two rounds, you at least have the ability, hopefully, to conserve a little bit of energy for that later round when hopefully your opponent's going to gas, and then you have the opportunity to take over. You have to do that at that point, and he just did not do that. He couldn't pull it off, and his corner was saying the exact right thing. I thought this was an example of good cornering. The corner was like, dude, this has to be your round here. Like, he's getting gassed out, he's tired, you have to be the one to go out there and make this fight yours, and he just wasn't able to do that. So unfortunate with that. Again, if your aim for Hasanov was to be a dude who could take your opponent, put him over here, take your opponent, put him over here, do that over and over and over again, then you certainly accomplished your goal. And another guy who has had some success with that exact thing is Sean Brady, who is in this division. So, I mean, can you really fault a guy for following in the footsteps of a dude who has made it pretty high in the division off of this?
I can definitely fault somebody for following in the footsteps of Sean Brady if this is the outcome of them. If this is what the Sean Brady inspiration people, look like. I'm cool. I'm good on it. Eric Nolan was never really that good. We kind of knew this, I guess, but I don't know. Hasanov, I mean, I guess we'll see you in a year time when we come back to Baku or something. I mean, I've started to realize, and this is something I should have brought up earlier with Ruziboev. Their one time, fighting in their region, it's not inactive. If they miss their one time, then that means they're inactive. But if they show up for their one scheduled bout, they normally bring it. I'll tell you that. But this guy, please just don't make me recognize your name when it pops up against a prospect that I really like or something.
True. Yeah. I mean, really at the end of the day, this was a very boring, samey fight, and that is about it. I mean, like I said, I don't want to be like as harsh maybe as Chase is being, only for the fact that it is impressive to be able to control your opponent this consistently throughout a fight. I mean, because he really did not have any opposition really at all. But you got to pair that with a fucking submission attempt at least. I mean, I don't know how many they credit him for, but I mean, like, yeah, no, 0 submission attempts in all of that control. He had over 11 minutes of control time with 0 submission attempts. Brother, that ain't it. So yeah. I do, I mean, like, I do admit that, that it is not really what you want to see when, like, it's that level of control. You have to be doing a little bit more to actually try to finish this fight if you're going to be as boring as this.
Absolutely. No, yeah, this guy, I'm not the biggest fan, I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely not my welterweight Marab.
True.
All right. Well, that brings us on to the main card here, and that starts off with our guy Abus Magomedov, and he fought Michal Oleksiejczuk. I feel like this is another instance where one of these guys just did not get out of the gate in a real way, and Michal Oleksiejczuk just sort of felt like he was always reacting rather than initiating in this fight. Abus was dictating the pace from the beginning of this. I thought he started off pretty strong, even if it wasn't the craziest output. I mean, like, he wasn't necessarily like shooting from the hip to begin with, but he was the one who was initiating the positional changes, putting the striking on, kind of backing Michal up at points and all this. And I mean, I thought that this was a fine performance if you are not getting that type of opposition back. And of course, then he ended up taking over thereafter in a more significant way.
I picked Abus to win this one. Obviously, good pick by me. Great us.
Mm-hmm.
I felt bad for Michal because I'm watching and I'm like, man, this is a guy that for some reason he's just got the underdog appeal, and I really appreciate what he does. He walks forward. He doesn't necessarily have the Polish power. He's knocked people out, but he doesn't come in here and knock people unconscious with the first punch he throws. He's a grindy kind of guy. A Abus is just one of those guys that has a skill set that can get past him. And Mikel, as much of a not great performance as it was, I mean, it was fine. It was sufficient until it wasn't. He got caught with a shot that was, in reality, how often do we really see just the point of the elbow catching somebody? It.
Yeah.
The difference is because when you get hit with a larger surface area, there's more things to absorb the impact. He got hit right with the tip of the elbow. It's like he got shot in the face, guys. Like the impact that he would have had, like right to his fucking jaw, like that was it didn't knock him unconscious, but boy, I tell you, when you see the replay, you're like, oh fuck, that would have hurt. Like, holy shit. His shit
Yeah.
might be broke. Like, I don't know. Like that
It
from
was
that.
it was a really good shot. I mean, like if you again, we didn't really get a good angle of it on the initial impact of it. Like we were kind of off to a different side. When you see the front on shot of it, like the actual, the profile version of it, it is a really really solid connection with that elbow. I was very impressed by it.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Good by a boost. Great shot, of course. Mikel eats it. He's wobbled. He's falling backwards. He ends up falling on his back, and this is where a boost obviously gets to just enact a very easy BJJ game plan. It's unfortunate for Mikel because I've seen this before. I've seen him walk forward, and he'll have a stretch where he'll have some good fights where he's able to eat shots and he's knocking people out, and then he'll get dropped, and then he'll just get submitted, and like I don't know if this is anything that I can say, like, you got to do better because, like, bro, you walked forward, you ate a shot. I mean, you didn't die on impact, but when you got to the ground, you just got outclassed. You've been training with the nerds, like, I don't know what better you could have done. A boost might just be that level that you just can't get past. The point I'm making as well, a boost, he may only fight once a year, but that is active for him. Like he can still stay warmed up in a sense. Like he's not ring rusty until he misses that one time he's supposed to fight. Mikel, dude, he's came in here after being active and winning and having great momentum, but a boost is just the type of guy that has those skills that he can just put it all together. I just hate that for Mikko because for some reason I just want to root for this guy, man. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, same. I mean, like I always do like when he's on. I like that's why I was a little upset that he was kind of slow to start in this fight because I think this could have been a different fight had he met Abus halfway when it came to the striking early, and the movement early as well. Again, Abus was dictating the positional element of this fight in a real way, and I think that played a big factor as to why Mikhail couldn't get his feet planted correctly. He couldn't set up his shots and stuff. I think Abus just had a game plan that sort of negated the things that generally allow Mikhail to do his thing. So, there was that, and then of course the shot was really perfectly executed. And then the other aspect of it, like you say, I mean, like there was no time to think after the shot landed. You want to talk about spider webbing your opponent. I mean, like he would, I talk about absorbing your opponent when it comes to the submission. I mean, that's literally what happened here. I mean, Abus catches Mikhail with the elbow, perfect shot, and then follows it up with that spider web of a guillotine is the way I put it. And there just wasn't anything that was to be done. So it is an unfortunate situation for him in that regard, but really kind of perfect on Abus's side. So you got to just acknowledge where that kind of a situation happens, and that is what happened here.
And then so I think it's key to talk about his call out in his post fight speech. So he ended up calling out Israel Adesanya. What do you think about this?
I mean, it is kind of crazy to think that at this point there is some validity to it. I mean, Abus, doing decently as far as keeping the wins going on the upward trajectory, and unfortunately, Israel Adesanya not. So, I mean, is Israel Adesanya at the level of Abus yet? I mean, maybe. I don't think so. I would. My mind says no, but the records might say otherwise at this point.
I The reason I think this is likely is because Israel Adesanya is somebody that you could market against somebody who doesn't have a big following from that region, and potentially more people are going to watch from that. So when you look at the people that he's faced, South African, French, He's faced a couple Americans, but like I feel like a German guy fits kind of right in. Like, oh, Israel Adesanya versus Magomed. Like that's something that I could see potentially being a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, if that's how they want to do it. I mean, if you're fighting Israel Adesanya, you're getting an instant bump just off of the name
Yeah.
recognition. So I think that that's okay. Yeah, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. More of what I thought you were going to bring up and what I wanted to talk about a little bit. What about him holding that choke a little extra?
I'm glad that you brought that up because I did forget about this in the moment. When you watch this, this was some shit, man. In the moment, it was like, all right, he kind of did it. But when you watch it in slow motion, man, a boost really kind of lost me here. The ref stops. A boost looks at him, locks in, and I'm like, bro, like, come on, like,
Yeah.
it ain't the worst thing in the world, but it just like you think you know somebody, man. You think like,
Yeah, that's kinda how I felt about it too, pretty much almost exactly that, where it was like, "Dude, yeah, you're feeling yourself, and I get it." I mean, look, you did get in really the sequence dictated that, so I do understand, like, yeah, I really did that shit, but it's like, at the same time, bro, come on, you're adding insult to injury. We all know you got it. You didn't need to sell it
yeah,
anymore, so I felt a little bad about that part of it. The only last thing that I did wanna bring up in this fight too, and really, I mean, I bring it up with knowing that there's nothing that's going to happen, so it's really a moot point, but Bisping, I thought, made a good point on commentary. Abus leading with his fingers through a lot of the early parts of this fight. And I was saying, you got to keep your fucking hands closed. But Bisping's point was people are leading with their fingers consistently, and they're going to do it until somebody actually gets a point deducted for the finger lead in and of itself without there being the foul. Just leading with when you get warned consistently about the fingers, how many times are you going to be like, close your hands? I don't was it? It might have been this fight. I don't know if it was this fight or another one of the fights. It might have been the first fight, but the referee actually came over and closed the guy's hand. He took his hand and said, no fingers, close your fist. And it's like, how many times and how many different ways can you have a warning before just the act itself without the foul leads to the point deduction? But again, more of a pie in the sky philosophical conversation because it's never going to lead to any actual real world impact. So what's the difference?
yeah. But unfortunately for Mikel, this was a great performance by Abus. I mean, he got it done in 10 strikes and ended with a submission, knocked him down. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get easier than that. You trained really hard, and this is what it amounts to. I mean, the destiny is still on Abus's side, so I think Israel Adesanya is likely in the future. He called his shot.
Yeah, yeah. I sadly at this point don't see anything really too wrong with that. I mean, Boos is a dude who's doing fine and getting finishes now. I mean, like Israel Adesanya needs to turn his own ship around if he still wants to not be taking the Abus fights of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So. All right. Well, that is that for Abus Magomedov. Before we move on, of course, a shout out to the chat. Hydra, appreciate you, brother. Really I see you in there, bro. You are definitely seen. Sam the Dragon coming back around as well. And of course, Bleeding Edge. You guys are awesome. CT, I saw you earlier as well. Thank you all for being here.
Hell yeah. TJF right on cue. Holy
Oh,
shit. Big
and
deal.
there you go. WTJF. Next up on the docket, we have Ikram Aliskirov versus Bruno Ferreira. I mean, I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record on this one, but this is yet another great example of why starting strong matters in MMA, brother. I mean, this is another one where Ikram was off to a really solid, consistent, good start, and Bruno he was letting himself get backed up a lot throughout this fight. It looked like he was trying to land a big shot off the back foot, but if you're not peppering other shots in, if you're not keeping a consistent output while you're trying to get that one shot to connect, you end up falling behind. And then you end up in round 3, you end up on your back, you end up doing the up and down game, after you could have had 2 other solid rounds that make round 3 less important. So I thought that this was an understandable loss for Fajeda, unfortunately.
This was another one of these really long round fights kind of deal. It's unfortunate. The only thing that I would say is we'll talk about the end sequence, but I was wrong. I had wrongfully assumed that Bruno would be able to dog it out. I was assuming that Ikram, being the more skilled fighter, I think I had said that I think Ikram's more skilled, but Bruno should have that dog. When it gets down to it, he should be able to pull it out. I was expecting Ikram to get to a point where it is more fighting instinctually than it was. I figured he was going to gas a lot sooner than the third. Bruno, unfortunately, always gasses early, but he still always has the potential for the power. I was waiting for it. He was never able to set it up. Ikram, he lasted a lot longer. The thing that I've said about him, and I still think I'm not sold, is I said, a lot of these guys from this region, when the adversity hits them, sometimes they have they'll bow out kind of deal. He was not put in the position where he got to experience that, and this was not the performance that happened. But how tired he looked at the end of the fight and his willingness to just take him down and lay on top of him with his coach saying, "Do this for the rest of the round, and you're good, and you win." Like someone's gonna stuff that final takedown, and you're gonna have to stand with them for that last minute, and they're gonna walk you down. And so I don't know. I think Bruno. It's funny because Bruno is more of a roller coaster when it comes to me, because I initially, like, I had talked a lot of shit about him. Like, dude, he's just not that guy. He's been facing people that are not that good. He submitted Jackson McVeigh. Who cares? This right here served me right, that I was never on the train, but I believed in him, that I've seen him dog it out before, and he was never able to get Ikram to that point where it was going to be a dogfight. So Ikram showed off a lot of skills, but I just don't like how he ended the fight. It didn't look like somebody who was going to be able to beat somebody who stuffs the takedown late in the fight. That's all that I would say after that. But shout out to him. He did prove me wrong with a very dominant victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, the thing that you want to file in the back of your mind is that Ikram does show signs of wearing towards the end of the fight that could be very significant against the right opponent. I agree with you on that for sure. I think that, because I was also wrong. I mean, I thought that Ikram was going to be able to, get the knockout earlier in this fight and just, call it at that. So he did have to go into the later round. And, it was noticeable by the end of the fight that there might be problems with a different opponent. He did not have to experience that here. That's what you take away from this fight, for going forward betting purposes. As far as what he did when he was fresher in this fight, though, I was really happy with. I mean, the volume differential, like I was saying earlier, very noticeable in round one. And it wasn't like Ikram was going with crazy power either. I was like, you're consistently putting a good volume on the power. Like, if you just turn the power up a little bit more in some of those shots, I think he might have been able to get that finish earlier, but that wasn't to be. Either way, I liked the jump knee into takedown combo that he kept consistently trying to go for. I was pretty happy with that. They talked about him training that on the broadcast, and he enacted it in the fight. I thought that was really good. So that first round dominance, I think, carried through, kind of throughout the rest of the fight. And you heard Bruno's corner telling him the exact right thing. He's like, Ikram, you're allowing him to dictate the pace of this fight. Like, you have to be the one to take control here. He didn't do that. So if you end up in a situation like that where you have an opponent who actually is able to turn those tables, yes, I do think that is a good, valid takeaway to say there is a potential for a late round finish if a different opponent is able to turn the tides against Ikram. But in this fight here, I mean, the jump knees were so money for him throughout all of this. It just wasn't to be if you didn't have the wherewithal to make that happen. So.
Yeah, because somebody like Jared Cannonier, I mean, if you give him 5 rounds with Ikram, I mean,
that's a great example. Yeah, exactly. That's a very, very good point. Yeah. So, I mean, how many Jared Cannoniers are left in the division? Maybe that's a little bit more of the question, perhaps. But, now Bruno is in an odd position with that. I mean, like, we're going to have to see if there's a guy lower that could even be that person now. So who knows,
Yeah, this one's unfortunate for Bruno, but he's going to go back to facing cans and knocking them out, so it's fine.
And ain't that the fucking carousel, right? You end up in a situation like this, you go back down, you end up having that resurgence of confidence, to be like, okay, I'm fighting down now. So, I mean, like, I can take over the pace. I can, start enacting instead of reacting, that kind of stuff. This was survival in this fight for him. And that was really, I think, the most unfortunate thing, because if he had been trying to meet him halfway with the positional dictation of things, I think this could have been a really competitive fight, but it just wasn't, sadly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree. It's unfortunate how one-sided it was for the entire fight. Yeah.
Yeah, which is great because, like, I was thinking, sometimes we talk about, like, what the fight of the night was, and I was going through this card and I was like, fight of the night has to be a competitive fight. And really, like, I mean, we'll talk about the rest of the fights, of course, but like, the fight of the night, competitive wise, was probably Bekzat and Matsumoto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, this could have been that. It's like, I bring it up here to say that, like, with Bruno, just a couple of adjustments and a little bit more, I don't know if it's confidence or just, whatever it was, like, just a little bit more, period, more, end of story, just a little bit more could have made this a lot more of a close fight than what it turned out to be. And yeah, unfortunately, it was not that, very one-sided.
And I like this from TJF. Yeah, Bruno versus Cedricus Dumas. Love it.
Book it. I love it. Cedricus Dumas staying around, just never leaves. But
yep.
All right, good deal on that one. And here is your kind of amazement of the card, I would say. This is Asu Almakhan versus Charles Johnson. Now, when I picked Charles Johnson to win this fight, he did not do that. But when you get Pulyaev stretched to lose the fight, I could not care less. I mean, this was a damn near perfect performance for Asu Almakhan in this fight. I mean, he looked so sharp from the beginning of this. And Asu Almakhan is essentially the prototype flyweight. He is a smaller guy, fast, powerful. He's a little ball of energy. I would class him as nimble. He is very light on his feet. He does not let his size dictate any other element of the fight. Like, because Charles Johnson, huge compared to him. I mean, you see the height differential and the size, the mass, especially after rehydration coming into this. Johnson looked really big. This is almost Davy and Goliath-esque in this division for these two. But Almakhan just made this his fight from the get-go. He was so locked in this thing. So to have a fight like that off rip is really impressive. But then to have the submission and a unique one at that, I mean, this 10 out of 10 for Asu Almakhan here.
No, that's the main takeaway. I mean, the submission being such a rare thing, it really is just the icing on top of the cake here, because I don't know if we've seen him better. Asu Almakhan was, and it's not even just looking in your best form. I mean, this is against the dude who has knocked out the current champ. I mean, a lot of things were at play here. I unfortunately was to have the assumption that, like, maybe it's just Charles Johnson's time. He had that good run, but he just took a loss to Alex Perez. If he takes a loss here, it's not looking good. But I think that's incorrect, because Charles Johnson was doing a lot of good things. He was doing the right things. Asu Almakhan was just on his shit. Sometimes you're just not going to beat somebody. They have got all the answers. They have trained so hard. And really, there's no reason for them to have lost to you. When you look at Asu Almakhan's record, he's got 3 losses. One of them is to Manel Cap, who cheated to go ahead and get that victory. And that's the only dude in the UFC that it's been, So the list isn't very long. And Charles Johnson, you're just you're added to the list of other people that have lost. We've already known that you're not championship material as of right now. Probably, unfortunately, not coming up anytime soon. Asu Almakhan, people have had stock in him, saying this is the guy to look out for. And me personally, I've not been on the bandwagon. I know Thinker is a big fan.
I said, this is the irony of this, is that you picked him to win, I picked Johnson to win, and we really kind of were opposites on that.
But Asu Almakhan, had I seen this performance before, I would 100% say this is the guy to look out for.
Yeah.
I had not seen that before, so I'm not going to go ahead and, say that this is my guy, ride or die. You need to do this again. Obviously, consistency is key. Great performance last fight. Not that he didn't or anything, but this where I am like, holy shit, this is next level. I need to see this again against, not saying Charles Johnson isn't the guy to show out against, but it's consistency. You got to be able to do it against different styles. The other guy, this guy, keep it rolling. You're obviously still a fight or two away from the title, because Manel is going to have to wait. We got Pantoja coming in the mix. Tyra is going to have to find something to do. There's a lot going on. But things like this is what I need from you. Stay active, stay hungry, and just fucking dominate, because holy shit, this was domination.
Well, bro, I don't know if you heard him in his post-fight speech. The people of Kazakhstan cannot wait. They have to see him fight for the belt. It's mandatory based on the country. He said so. I thought that was pretty funny. He's out here, saying, wait, the people of Kazakhstan cannot wait for me to fight for the belt. It's like, well, they're going to have to. I'm sorry to say, this is a very stacked division, and there's a lot of people in line right now. So yeah, you're going to have to fight a couple more times before that's even close to the conversation. But exactly as you said, Chase, this is how you do that. This is how you stay in that conversation. And really, a fight like this really does show all of the aspects that keep you relevant 100%, because it was wrestling round 1. The kicks were there in round 2. The striking, the hand striking wasn't necessarily like all that from him, but he's fighting a much taller opponent. What's that?
No, bro, his striking was good as hell this fight. Like seriously,
Yeah,
this
no,
is the best it's ever been.
It was there, but I mean, like, I think that the kicks were really the more focal point, at least for me, at least the way that I was perceiving it. But look, fair, fine. Maybe it's one of those performances that you see, the things that you want to see because they're all there for you. That's really what I'm getting at here.
It's interpretation,
or just it's like what you're picking out. But either way, I mean, like, it's all there for the taking. It's all, you can pick all these things out, and then, as you said, if the submission was just the icing on the cake, what a fucking icing it was. I mean, a legitimate Suloev stretch, one that was he had to work for it a little bit. I mean, he was all over Johnson in rounds 2 and 3 as far as the wrestling went, and into the grappling sequences. This was a grueling pace for CJ throughout a lot of these, and then for all of that, having Charles Johnson navigating those pretty effectively, even if he was on the losing end of it, to still pull off the Suloev stretch. I mean, it doesn't get much better, man. Wes Schultz sees this and just thinks party time.
Absolutely. My thing is that I know that Vitz is a very big fan of Charles Johnson. Please tell me you did not show him this.
Yeah, no, I specifically have been keeping this away from Vitz King, sure.
Because the thing about it is, it's not just losing. There's a level of embarrassment every time you lose, whatever you want to say. This probably is one of the more embarrassing submissions to go out on. Listen, you're a fighter. It's not embarrassing to go out, whatever you want to say. This does not give a good image. One, to people who are watching and they're like, what the fuck is he doing? It's a little kinky, but hey, it worked and you tapped out, brother. But that's just not, unfortunately, the way that I would want to go out. So
yeah, I mean, it's like, especially too, like the fact that the camera angle is dead front, so it's like you're watching. The fighters are facing you. Sue is behind him, pulling the leg back. Charles Johnson's whole ass just out there for the world to see. I acknowledge the optics of it, so I do get that. Either way, I mean, submission's a submission. Charles Johnson, even himself, a little upset that it went down like that, but really that's not the thing that I thought was what you wouldn't want to see. The thing that I wouldn't want to see is Charles Johnson going full Stephen Wright with his skullet. He's let that skullet get a little bit out of control, I would say. Some compared it to a little bit like a clown, like a Bozo the Clownish kind of situation. But if you know the comedian Stephen Wright, trust me, if you don't know, look it up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's not a good look for that, and also not a good look to have his ass out there like that in the Suloev stretch.
It is his look, that is his thing. I will give him the credit there. He is the only one who be rocking this. You got Suloev stretched, brother. I don't know. There's nothing really else to say. The one thing that I will say, like the joke, like, oh, he's gonna get put on a t-shirt. You are not getting put on a t-shirt when you get subbed like this. Nobody's wearing this out. I'll tell you that. So you should at least be happy there.
Put it on a t-shirt and I'll wear it. How about that? Somebody get me the Suloev stretch from Asu Almakhan to Charles Johnson. Put it on a shirt. Yama will wear it. Promise you that. Send it over to me. I'll be the one.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you.
Yeah, good deal. Again, just to wrap this thing up, I cannot overstate how perfect of a performance this was for Asu Almakhan. So please keep performing like this.
And Hydra with a very good point. He's the only one rocking it for a reason.
I would assume you're talking about the skullet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were talking about the open ass.
Correct. That one too.
All right. Well, either way, shout out to Didgeridoo Dave coming in. Appreciate you, brother. All right. Next up, this one hurts my heart. It is Nazim Sadikov versus Mateusz Camilo. The Nassim, the dream has died, my man. I mean, I think I said it exactly how I meant it on the predictions for this fight coming into it from last week. I said I was hoping that last fight for Nazim Sadikov was just an off night. And this right here proved that it was not just an off night. You are a touchable dude. Now, I will say, we talked about early stoppages. This was this was an instant stoppage, I would say. But as far as what commentary said, I agreed with Paul Felder. You can't just sit there, get punched, and then spring back to life afterwards and complain about it. You have to, this is what happens when you don't do anything. They stop the fight. Was it a little bit of a quick stoppage, even with the dynamics? I would say so. But you got dropped immediately in this fight, basically. I mean, pretty quickly, if not that. I mean, 29 seconds or no, a minute 30 into the fight, whatever. But it wasn't much else going on in this fight up until that point. So it's not a good look for a guy who they on the broadcast were saying the same things that I had said. This was a dude who I had in a fight of the year contender for last year. If not, I might have even given this fight of the year for him and Mata. So either way, I mean, if this is a fight of the year contender fighter, and this is how you're performing in this fight against Mateus Camilo, who we said is like an NPC of this sport, the dream has died, brother. I don't know what else to tell you.
This is horrible because it really is a double-edged sword for Sadikov. If he won in any fashion, say he knocks him out, it's like, well, bro, they gave you a fucking guy to beat in your hometown. Congrats, big whoop. He's obviously not that good. Say he wins by decision, it's like, dude, you took him to decision. The guy that they tried to fucking feed you in front of your hometown. Now he loses, and it's like, you're so bad you lost to the guy that they tried to give you a free win off. Like,
Yeah.
I really hate the narrative, but like there's really no good way to spin this for me. Like, I can't just be like, oh, you just got caught, bro. It's like, bro, I already saw him suck, and you're gonna tell me he came in here and threw 16 strikes and didn't fucking land well? Because like Sadikov has one of these styles that kind of pisses you off. Like, you're watching him, you're like, he's like doing the whole fucking, like, he's like super zoned in. Everything that he does is like on a dime. It's like 100% like mental. And it's like, bro, you're doing all this shit to whiff fucking punches and get punched square in the fucking face. Like, it'd be one, they're like, oh my God, he seamlessly just switches stances. He's here, he can do it. It's like, bro, he got punched once. He squared up, punched him once with a right hand. It barely, like, listen, it hit him, but like it was like it hit him, and like you could see his fist like go punching out. It hit him. Bro fell down and put his hands over his head. Like, I hate to say it, but like, dude, you can't come in here thinking you're the fucking Terminator. You're having a fighting style that you are just, and then you just get popped on the first strike, and that's it. This is a Ray Longo guy. I'm a big fan of Ray Longo recently because I've heard him talk about some fighters, and he's unfiltered, and it is awesome. I need to hear what you have to say about Sadikov, brother, because he didn't, for as locked in as he seems, he didn't see a straight right just annihilate him. Like, again, you're not going to dodge every punch. Everybody's going to get hit. But like, I'm just in awe that one punch just fucking lit him up, because again, fight of the year. He took damage in that fight. He got knocked down, got back
Tons.
up.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally was talking about that on the prediction, saying that this is a guy, he's been in fights where he had to go through adversity. I mean, that, and I wouldn't say that Nicholas Mata is like the craziest power puncher, but I mean, you're getting consistently touched. It's like fucking, obviously it's going to be adding up over time. So it's just strange. And I mean, look, sometimes there are evolutions in this sport. Some people, we talk about people like Henan Barao. I mean, like going back into the old school days. I mean, Henan Barao was a guy who was on one of the longest win streaks in the sport. Goes up against TJ Dillashaw, never recovered. Just went on a tremendous downfall that is still studied to this day. I'm not saying that Nazim Sadikov is that guy, and the dynamics are very different, but we've seen it before, where you've had once great fight. Tony Ferguson, another example of a guy, who was surging at one point, boogeyman, and then 7 losses later, things get a lot different. I don't know if Nazim Sadikov is, going to be to that level of consistent loss, but this is not trending in the right direction. That said, and this is not an excuse, this is just a separate point. Rich Mitchell is a referee, bald guy. You've probably seen him. He was the referee of this fight. He comes from the Jason Herzog school of how can I insert myself into this fight in any way possible. If you recall, he was the one that we were talking about, Mantis, for whatever, what I'm talking, that fight.
You over here. No, you over here.
Yeah, the traffic cop, exactly. Now, he didn't have to do any of that in this fight, but he is so, like, he wants to be part of the world here. Too much for a referee, man. And I only say that to say he gave him literally no time to work back to his feet. Again, not an excuse. You got caught. You covered up. The optics were there. It's not even the worst stoppage based on that. But like I would have, again, the same thing we said about the Mr. Beast stop or whatever. Like, if you land 4 to the guard, give me 6. He landed 1 to the guard and it was done. I mean, this was such an instant stoppage. And again, like, I'm not making an excuse here. The fine that this fight got stopped, and it probably still would have got stopped either way with those extra strikes. But Rich Mitchell just wants to be a part of the action so bad that it was just like, now I come in. Here's my time. It's like, bro, you have to not be, you're not the focal point here, Rich Mitchell. You are the adjudicator. That's your role in this. If you want to be a fighter, go be a fighter. Yeah. You're a referee. That's your job. So do your job that way.
Bothers me. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I definitely think this was a little early. Like, if you actually, in comparison, if you go back and watch what happened to Anshul Jabli when he got knocked out by Quillen Salkild, he got dropped, and yes, he did do the cower up thing, but then he immediately shot for a takedown. Like, the ref was stepping in as Anshul was like back to it. This one, Sadikov wasn't doing nothing, and I'm not saying that he wasn't hurt, because he obviously got dropped, his knees folded, and he hits the mat. Bro was laying there for a second, and only then when the ref steps in is when he is able to get to his feet. It's like, damn, you look like you got plenty of balance now. Like, I don't know. Like, it is unfortunate that as soon as the ref stops, he comes up. What are you doing? What are you doing? But we've seen that before. We've seen it time and time again. In this one, bro, you got folded. Like, I mean, the one clean punch, and again, it wasn't even clean. I don't know if I had much faith for you afterwards, but again,
and that's
we got
why
to
I'm not
give
mad
everybody
about it.
equal
Sure.
opportunity.
Exactly. There you go. Nailing it. Exactly. Because I'm not mad that like he was probably going to lose one way or another. It's just because like how many times have we seen the guys who have that little extra leeway come back? I mean, like we were talking about Matt Schnell, right? Wasn't that the one recently where, like, I mean, he was getting consistently punched through the guard or whatever. And that was like saying, advocating for him to have a little bit more time. I think that he got enough of that in that fight. But like, had he started working his way back into the fight, you would have been like, man, yeah, good that you didn't stop that. You give him that little extra is all I would say. But either way, like I said, the dream does not endure with Nazim here, and that does make me very upset, considering I think that he was one of those sleeper fighters that I really thought was like bubbling under the surface, but no more. And now you've got Mateus Camilo with a knockout win. Does that equal up to confidence going forward? I don't know if you should have that off of this, but a win's a win's a win. So congratulations to him, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yep. Shout out Camilo. I'm not trying to discredit him. He did everything he was supposed to do, went into enemy territory and flatlined the dude. So I'll give it to him.
Certainly shut up that audience. I'll tell you that. It was very silent in that building when that fight happened here.
Oh, yeah. Loved it.
Yep, indeed. All right. Well, next one up is the co-main event. And this was a very frustrating fight for me to watch. This was Shara Magomedov versus Michal Pereira. Now, look, I mean, we knew that Michal Pereira is, a guy who, it's what I talked about on the predictions. He's in this new age of Michal Pereira where, at one time he would throw everything into round one and then he would gas out tremendously in every other round thereafter. This new version of conserving energy Pereira is just a dud. I would say it's not working. It's not working the way that he is intending it to. If you're conserving energy, what are you conserving it for if you don't lose it, if you don't use it later in the fight?
That is exactly the thing. This fight, you can blame Shara all you want. That's fine. We'll talk about some things, but there is no fucking way in hell should we have to sit through these performances from Michal Pereira. Because listen, it's one thing. He comes out there, balls to the wall. He gives it a first round, and then, okay, he shows his toughness because he doesn't want to quit the next 2 rounds. It's one thing. Doing nothing in the first round to conserve energy for the late, and then doing nothing in the second round, and then doing nothing in the third round. And, mind you, still getting tired after doing nothing. It's just not the fucking go, bro. It is so bad.
He did not do nothing in the first round, though. I mean, he knocked him down, and he was almost trying
Okay,
to
he
finish
knocked
the
him
fight.
down early. I'm sorry. He knocked him down early, and then it amounted to nothing. And Shara was able to just lay there for the fucking and almost up kick it. That sequence was fucking annoying. But Michel Pereira doing next to nothing. I'm sorry. He knocked him down. More of Shara just being a fucking goofball because he's done plenty of that in this fight. I don't know what he was on today, or Saturday. But Michel, I did not love this. I'm sick. This should not be a co-main event kind of fighter. People were asking since when did Shara become a co-main? Guys, it's in the desert. He's a big name. He's co-main. Michel Pereira, no fucking way, brother. No fucking way. With performances like this, it's just not fucking cool. And we'll go with Shara. Listen, Shara may have been boring. He may have not been on his A game. This is two people who really didn't want to fucking fight that much. It kind of seemed. I did give him the nod, and I've also always said that Shara is one of these dudes that he's gonna do what it takes to win. So when you get to the sequence on the ground where Shara is grabbing Pereira's ponytail, now this is illegal. 3 times. The one time, if Herb put his finger in between, he's like, "No, get that out." So 3 different times he was pulling the ponytail. But now this is where I have to remind everybody, like, it is the fighter's choice if he wants to do illegal things and it wants to take the risk to get penalized. So I do not blame Shara for what he did here. Yes, it is illegal, and obviously he did it. Yes, the blame is on him, but in the fight, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. It is on the referee to uphold the fucking rules in the cage. So him allowing him to continue holding the hair, that's the referee's fault, again, for not putting the rules in play. He's not, enforcing what should be going down. And Shara, again, I don't blame him for continuing to try to do it if the ref is not going to stop.
It's the consistent comment about Herb Dean at this point, and like I don't understand how now 3 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, the same referee has had the same criticism leveled at him, and nothing in the slightest is being done about it, or any kind of change look like it's happening at all. The only thing that we are getting is justifications of the rule set that he is not enforcing. That's this is where the back of the head is. Yeah, he got struck in the back of the head exactly where you're pointing it out. You can say the same thing about, it's not legal to grab the hair. Okay, yeah, he did it 3 times. Where is the enforcement? So you pair that with the fact that he grabbed the hair 3 times in the first round, and then in round 3 ends up poking the eyes. I mean, this is 4 fouls in one fight, and Gooden on the broadcast saying it's going to be interesting to see how Herb handles this. I mean, he fouled him 3 times before this. This is the 4th foul of the fight. Is he going to take? Of course, he's not going to take the fucking point. TJF made a great point about this. This could have very well been a draw had any point deductions been established, considering how many times Pereira was fouled. But that was not to be. So, of course, Shara wins the fight. And you're right. If there is no enforcement of the rules, are there rules at all? Why not cheat? Everybody should.
My thing about it, too, is at the beginning of the 3rd round or whatever it was, Herb is telling Shara, or maybe it was at the end of the 2nd round, like, yo, if you do that. No, this was great. Oh, my gosh. Herb goes to he goes to Shara in between the rounds, and he's like, yo, can't grab the hair. You can't grab the hair. And he's like, which one of you talks for him? Like, which one? You? Come here.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
And this pissed me off. This pissed me off so bad because he calls the dude over. He's like, who speaks for you? Come here. No, come here. You're going to come. Tell him he cannot grab the hair. And this coach had the audacity. No. That's not what he was doing. You shut the fuck up. Yeah. You speak to him in whatever language he speaks, and you tell him what the ref said. I don't need you to fucking tell me what he was doing. You are not. Don't you? The audacity for that one. Like, and that just made me so mad. Like, you were told to come translate for him. You were not told to come fucking speak for him. You were not supposed to. No. Bro, that made me fucking mad, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. And the funniest thing about that too is that there was, I forget what ref it was recently that had a similar situation to that, and the ref said to the coach, he was like, "I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to have you translate." That's exactly what should have happened here, and I think basically that is essentially what he finally got to. But Herb just not taking the reins in a meaningful way when it comes to that kind of stuff. But you're right, the audacity is through the roof when it comes to that. this is the arrogance of some of these fighters of this region, I have to say. And I mean, I'm not biased, of course. I mean, I think that they have some of the best fighters in the world from, Dagestan and from, from Russia, and these fighters come in and do great things often. But like, there is sometimes this weird like chip on the shoulder, is like, these Sambo guys, like, it's like, we are of a different breed over here, and we get to just kind of fight to our own tune. And it's like, dude, that's not how this works, man. Like, you have to play by the same rules as everybody else, but that also comes with the enforcement. And again, if they're not going to be enforced, then are there any rules at all?
Yeah, this one, an unfortunate fight. I am very, very happy that it ended the way it did. I'm not saying it was the actually speaking to the point when he sorry, to go back to the point where he brought in the translator and he was like, yo, tell him that there's no more of this. Everybody's like, he told him no more warnings. He's gonna give him a point, and then he kicks him in the dick. It's like, guys, those aren't the same. You can't equate, or whatever.
But it should not matter at that point. That my thing, because I understand what you're saying. Yes, two different fouls.
Yes.
However, it's the number of fouls. Like, you get away with 3 of one and 1 of the other. How many do you like? Okay, so if he had kicked him in the dick as well, there's that also should just be a new set of fouls. I mean, like, come on, man.
I definitely agree with you, but this goes back to the officiating, or no, but the point is about that, with the fouls not being upheld, whether it was wrong, incorrect, or not, is aside. I am very grateful that we did not end up with a draw because of something like that, because that would mean that a performance like this from Michel Pereira is getting some positive light somehow. Like, I'm seriously not understanding this new style for Michel. Like, it's not the move. He knocked him down, but it literally did not fucking matter. Like, he went 2 more rounds after. You didn't even get a single shot on him that mattered after that. Like,
Yeah, it was almost like an entirely new fight, which was really, really frustrating. Yeah, I mean, actually, I wanted to highlight a comment from Hydra. He said, Pereira did his thing as expected, Shara did his thing as expected, and Herb did his thing as expected. I think that tracks tremendously well in this fight, sadly, because Pereira, we had talked about the fact that the round ones can be, somewhat decent still, but he's conserving energy for later rounds, doesn't do anything to capitalize on that energy that he has later in the fight. So yeah, great, dude. You made it to the horn. That's awesome. You certainly made it to the end of the fight, but you made it to that without doing anything additional to win it. Not the look. The other thing I wanted to say when it comes to Shara, aside from the fouls, I don't I mean, now maybe this was not the best example of Shara, to be sure. Of course, this was not his best performance, regardless of the fouls. He is awkward, but not in a satisfying way. That is the conclusion that I have come to. That I think is why I've never really jibed with him in the first place.
I heard you say this on your stream, and I'm in a disagreement. I'm in a disagreement. I think Shara is an exceptionally pleasant striker to see. Striking, listen, when it comes to leg kicks, this dude has some of the best kicks in the game. Body, leg kick. He mixes up the numbers very, very well when it comes to striking, just from his kicks themselves. He does a
I
lot of
don't
high kicks. Go
But
ahead.
I don't think that that's the part though. Like, it's not the actual landed strikes that are the thing. It's all of the setups that are just strange. He's like he's bouncing all. He looks like a banshee a little bit. He's got this really like jumpy kind of twitchy style that he walks around with. Hands go low sometimes, then he's back up. He's moving, darting different directions and stuff. And then finally, after all of that, random looking setup stuff, that's like, what is this all adding up to? Yes, he occasionally will get a satisfying strike after all of that, but I'm like, it's just, I don't know. It's like maybe MVP gets away with something like that, not exactly the same, but similar in their kind of unorthodox nature. But like, it just doesn't do it for me when it comes to Shara. So you pair all of that with all the fouls and then everything else, and then it becomes like it's just the fact that he's a fucking asshole of a human being and does not shut the hell up. That's the other thing I wanted to say too. Shara on the microphone, just talking and talking and talking. This guy never stops talking.
I love, and this happened a couple different times. I love when the fighters do the wait, one more thing, one more thing. It's like, bro, you should have said that first.
I mean,
There you go. Save it. How about the thing that when they walk away with the mic, instead of going, wait, 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 how about you just say that first?
of
Say
course.
what you're wanting to say first,
Well, and it's also extremely ironic to do that after speaking for 5 consecutive minutes. I mean, dude, you still have more? There's more you want to say after all of that? Dude, we've heard enough of you, especially after a fight like that. Please stop.
Yeah, 100%. No, this one was not it. I'm gonna give Shara, this is his one benefit of the doubt. Like, I think this one, I blame Pereira. I think this one, even this one, I don't even think this was like it was boring, but like this was more or less them trying to figure out who's gonna do the goofiest punch. Like so, they were doing a lot of feints and stuff. Like because again, Shara got dropped initially, so he knew the power was there, so he had to do a lot more. You know, I think benefit of the doubt for Shara. I think a co-main event was warranted, obviously for the region that we're in, and Michel Pereira just should not be. This dude's got to be unranked again, bro. I cannot believe like he's not as good as he once was. He's got to start finishing people again because it's bad, bro. It's not good when he's not finishing them in the first round.
Yeah. This new conserve energy style is definitely not it, and it's going to continue to not be it. I mean, there's if you don't have anything to actually show after round one, there's nothing for you in the big picture unless you are finishing. So, yeah, I agree. But look, we both got the prediction right, I guess. So, hats off for that.
And then speaking of getting the prediction right,
This certainly was the heartwarming element of everything at the end of the day. We had that ridiculous co-main event, but it all ended with a nice culmination in the main event of the evening: Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres. I mean, Fiziev, this is a y'all must have forgot moment for Fiziev on home turf, which was extremely nice to see. And I think again, not to backpat over here, but I think like when it comes to Torres and the way that he navigates fights, like this was a great exploitation of the things that I had sort of intimated or hinted at coming into this. Like he has a very predictable style when it comes to how he sets up his shots. He's reaching for shots at such dramatic distances that it's like if you have a game plan in place to counter all of that, which Fiziev obviously did, because I mean he won round one and before he got the round two knockout. So I mean like this was like he was already trending in the right direction, navigating everything that Torres was bringing to the table. So if you have a game plan, this is an easy puzzle to solve when it comes to Torres, and I'm just glad that Fiziev was able to do that.
I am also glad Fiziev was able to get it done. I mean, I can't tell you the reasons or the small details of what made it happen for him, but it did, you know. And he went up against a dude who was very scary. There was a shot that landed at the end of the first round, and I was like, oh shit, there it is. Like that shot right there is like it went, Fiziev put the guard up, but it went just like right under him, caught him in the chin. And I was like, ah, shoot. But thankfully, the second round was very, very quick, and we got to see what we did. Torres, I've always seen the same thing. I mean, he just overreaches on everything. I would like to make a point. If anybody has been around for my tops unboxing streams, if anybody remembers what the back of Manuel Torres card said, that shit said that he's got one of the best double legs in the fucking game. This dude ain't shot a takedown in 5 fights, bro. I don't know who made that card, but here's another example of they didn't even fucking know who this dude was. But apparently, Manuel Torres, not a wrestler, he's a striker. Obviously comes in here, overthrows on all of his strikes. He was wild this time. It was, normally again, it's that 1-2 that he really overextends on, but this dude was just throwing shit. Like he was just throwing his hardest punches. And shout out to Fiziev. I mean, he trusted his game plan, trusted he actually just fucking charged. I said that was the thing that he needs to do. Just go out there and take him out of his rhythm. Go out there and put the fight in your hands. Fiziev came out, ball of fury, got it done in the first round, of course, won that first round. And then the second round just came in with an amazing wheel kick that he just pulled out of his ass. Obviously, he's a fucking goat. Hits him with the wheel kick, puts him up against the cage. And then the finishing sequence, I mean, it wasn't early at all. It wasn't late either. I mean, when you see, we didn't get a better angle from it, but the angle that we have was as clear as day. I mean, he gets him with the ground and pound. You see Torres fall out, and he wakes up a little bit later with a big old lump on his eye. But the fact is, Fiziev is back, guys. I mean, he never really left. He's got 30 whole minutes with the champ right now, so it's good experience.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, really, all 100% down the line. Nice work from Fiziev in this fight. He got the takedown early in round one. Got him flushed down for a minute, which I thought was a good way to not only slow Torres down a little bit, but also just make him aware of potential takedowns going forward, which may possibly account for a little bit of how he was moving after that, because really the output was kind of lacking on the Torres side. I mean, as far as round one goes, like, he like we've seen better output from him, I think, in other fights. I mean, he was certainly still throwing with some good power, but like consistent volume. He's not a volume striker necessarily. He's a power striker, but still, I mean, like, a little bit more compared to what you're getting out of the Fiziev side. Again, fast starter. Love to see that from Fiziev here. So setting up the nice elements to make this fight his. Got the first round, and then right at the start of round 2, makes this a highlight worthy performance thereafter with that spinning wheel kick. I mean, just picture perfect. What a way to seal the deal. Beautiful finish after that. I mean, the follow-up shots thereafter. This was a really, again, it's nice to see out of a fighter that you like, and Fiziev is a fan favorite, even with a little bit, like he said, that little black line on my career, and now he was so happy after this win too. So that was nice to see as well. So he's happy. We're happy. I think everybody felt pretty good at the end of this.
Two things. The last things that I'll say. Yes, Fiziev was very happy. It was actually really funny to see. So he goes over to the cage door and he tries to walk out, and they're like, nope, nope, and he goes he tries to sneak back out there, and like they catch him again. It was really funny. The last thing that I'll note about this fight specifically, did you notice Manuel Torres' tattoo?
He did get a new tattoo. I think I actually said something about that on the watch along, saying that I thought he got some new ink. What are we talking about?
He has a gun that is on the back of his pants, like on his ass cheek.
Oh
So
God,
it's
one of
like
those.
so it's like poking out of his shorts. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, this dude has an ass tat. Like, I mean, it legitimately is a tattoo on his ass. And this is one of the baddest men on the planet, Like, I can't believe it, man. It's just one of those stupid tattoos. It's like the idea, I get where you are going with it. It's on your backside now, brother. You can't even see how dumb it looks. I don't know, but whatever.
People got to be careful with tattoos, man. I don't know if you were around at all for the Inca FC watch along we did recently last week. That this guy had a full chest tattoo, but it, like, I guess somewhere in there it got something got messed up. He had to do a cover up on his chest, and it turned into what only could be described as a tattoo homunculus. It was like it had like a circular kind of void in the middle, and it had like a hook kind of tentacle coming off of it. It looked very strange, and now it's there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, you obviously blacked it out for a reason. You have just a splotch full of tattoo on your chest, so you got to remember, people, tattoos are generally forever. So be confident in what you're getting.
Yeah, and speaking of bad tattoos, I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the epic tattoo that you also saw with the headphones. Music is forever as well as tattoos. So
Yes, and I guess that was in the Tough Enough promotion. That guy with the headphones tattoo, that was a little while ago, but apparently that guy has a pretty interesting backstory outside of the tattoo, from what I understand.
yes, I was there when we learned about this one. Yeah, so that is an interesting past that some people have, but other than that, the Fiziev is going to have a great future heading on forward. I'll say that.
Nice way to nice way to bring it back around. Yes. And I mean, look, there's really not too much else to say about this fight. I mean, this was a solid front to back performance for Fiziev. Really showed. Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm not trying to dog Manuel Torres. He's a tough guy. He's got some really nice, good first round finishes, but I kind of did not feel he was of the caliber of this fight. So it was good to see that did ring true. Fiziev is still that guy, even with the couple of losses that he's had. If it is just a little black line in the career, then Fiziev is right back on track. So very happy about this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this one was a good main event to cap off in Baku, and shout out to Fiziev for getting it done in front of his hometown
Yeah,
or home crowd, excuse me.
absolutely, for sure. And on the Torres side, what I would say is this should be like, maybe the Bahamundes fight was not the wake up call, but a fight like this should certainly be the wake up call that, like, you need to become a more versatile fighter. I really, like, again, the reason that I keep harping on the things that he does, like, consistently, is because if they are that predictable that I'm talking about them, you need to widen your base as a fighter. You need to have a bigger bag of tricks. So I think that should be the takeaway. Hopefully he goes and gets the improvements that he needs, because I do think that he's a pretty good dude at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is cool.
Good deal. All right. Well, that is UFC Fight Night, Fiziev versus Torres. Chase, after talking it all through, what'd you think of this thing?
This was a very good card. Of course, we got to watch it during the daytime, and then we had to get our night activities on after. And this was just a really fun one. I can't really be too mad. Again, in a positive vibe about the fights. I love any fights that are happening unless we have blatant scandalism and rigging and cheating and all of them thrown into one specific fight. Then it becomes a problem. But other than that, this was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I thought that the fights were pretty good. Those elements of it, which we are talking about every goddamn week. I don't know what else can be done at this point. We're like, because what I would say, and this is an overarching problem now. This is beyond us as fans being like salty about like things not going our way, or oh, your parlay didn't hit, or any of that kind of stuff. We are talking about the fundamental oversight of this sport when it has been proven before our eyes to not be conducted correctly, and we've been seeing it week over week. There is not much more noise that we can make unless there's some kind of big, like, change.org petition or something like that to actually have legitimate change in this sport. So we're doing our part out here on the podcast, at least, to keep talking about these fights and bringing up these inconsistencies with the oversight. Somebody else out there, I guess, has to start maybe getting the ball rolling. Maybe we do start a change.org petition of some sort or something along those lines, because I don't know how else to make it clear that this is a big problem and fighters are going to get hurt. This is also, at the end of the day, this is not just saltiness. This is the fighter safety that we're talking about here. So, that does put a marring on things. And again, just take all of that part out of it. It does drag down an otherwise good event as well, right? I mean, this could have been, front to back, a great event had it not been for a couple of select instances of those kinds of things. So I say that to say, be vocal about this. If you guys are on Twitter, if you're on social media elsewhere, be vocal about these things that you see. Don't let these commissions off the hook. Don't let these referees and judges off the hook. Like, it needs to be a vocal groundswell amongst the community to let them know that we are aware of this and we do not appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see chat saying decent card. Yeah, 6.5. Okay, fair.
Yeah, I mean, that would be about right. But I'd probably put it at like a 7. I thought it was a little bit better than that. I liked it. I thought it was a good card. I thought that some of the finishes, some of them a little one-sided perhaps, but there were some good finishes on it. And in an afternoon, I'm a happy guy getting some early fights. So
absolutely.
Well, that being said, then, Chase, I think that it's time to run the numbers. And I know that your boy Thinker St. James did somewhat decent this week. So run it down for me.
So out of the 13 fights,
yes,
I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 correct.
Mm-hmm.
Thinker had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 correct. Okay, so the totals are in, guys. So I am still in the lead a little bit. I'm at 161. Thinker is at 142.
I mean, still not great for your boy, but I have to say that 9 of 13 is probably about as good as I'm going to get. So, I mean, I have to be taking the victories where I can take them. So I'm pretty happy about this overall. And, like I said, celebrate when you can celebrate. I will celebrate that.
Actually, okay, so on Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates, you had also gotten 9 correct out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights. Look at that.
There you go. About as good as I can get is certainly tracking. We're trying to go for the perfect at some point. It'll happen.
No, absolutely. Mosvar versus Lerone. You literally got all but one correct. So there was your best one right there.
Wow. All right. I mean, so, I guess it's not impossible, people. How about that? Every once in a while, your boy comes out with a surprising, decent performance.
I'm looking at it right now. There's some good amount of times that you've gotten 8 or 9 is what it's looking like, just off a quick glance.
All right, fair enough then. I guess it's just conventional wisdom that I have come to believe that you are the superior picker of fights here.
No, you're good, man. We just often pick the same fights. It's
True.
Just that's where it comes. We pick the right fights mostly. Sometimes we differ and we get it wrong when the dude fucking bites the ear and cheats and the ref don't give a shit. That's unfortunate, but that ain't nothing we could do about it.
Well, then I guess the ultimate takeaway then is just keep listening to the podcast for the best takes on MMA on all of the internet, right? I mean, that's what I'm going with.
On all platforms.
Exactly. Certainly on all platforms as well. You can be listening to this in audio form wherever you get podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess then since we are not doing our predictions for this week, we do have the this week's fights coming up next week, so we will do the in-depth breakdown. So that is going to probably be about the end of the show here. Chase, anything that you want to talk about, discuss, or mention before we get out of here?
No, I will mention that the chat is so supportive. You guys are awesome. You guys are going to make us get to the level where we need to be, where we can make this a full-time, career for each other. It's not just a hobby at this point. We're doing this every Monday for not just you guys, but for us as well. This is something that we love to do. And if you guys are going to continue supporting us, I mean, it's only going to get bigger and better, and we got great things coming. So it all starts with the chat. Let me say it that way.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for this one. We see you, Johnny the God, 10-7 in the chat. Appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to 10-7 as well. Great stuff going on over there. Hydra, all of the other guys that we already mentioned. You guys are amazing also. Thank you so much as always. So, of course, no predictions, but you can always hang out with us when we are on our individual channels. There will be more stuff coming up this week. Hopefully some interesting things for you as the week progresses. You can find me at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They can find me on youtube.com/@CPSmalls, and we will be streaming every Friday morning, one championship, and every Saturday when the UFC is on, and of course, Monday nights.
There you have it. I am at YamaShow on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. Make sure you follow your boy on the socials. That's going to do it for this one, everybody. We will see you in the next one. And until then, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.